opening phone and text lines for your reaction. Are you frustrated to see the Democrats, though a minority, once again give in to the GOP and Trump, or do they do the right thing?
I'm Marjorie Egan. Meanwhile, President Trump just gave a pardon to former Mr. Four Seasons landscaping himself, Rudy Giuliani, along with dozens of others for charges related to trying to overthrow the fair election in 2020. We'll discuss that and more with Brian McGrory, former editor of the Boston Globe and current head of journalism at BU. That's next on the 11 o'clock hour at BPR, GBH, and NEPM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The U.S. Supreme Court has declined to take up a case challenging its decision legalizing same-sex marriage. It did not comment. A Kentucky clerk who had once been jailed for refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses had asked the High Court to revisit its decision, but it refused. A group of Senate Democrats and an independent senator broke ranks yesterday and voted with Senate Republicans. They passed a procedural vote that would lead to a short-term spending measure. The aim is to bring the federal government shutdown to an end. The House would have to reconvene to take up the measure, and Speaker Mike Johnson says he is prepared to get started.
The Senate's vote late last night of 60-40 opens the door now. The Senate is moving forward on an amended House CR, a continuing resolution, that will reopen the government until January 30th.
The senators say they've gotten a promise from the Senate Majority Leader. It's that the Senate will take up the high premiums that Americans will pay for health insurance next year under the Affordable Care Act. The Trump administration is asking the U.S. Supreme Court again to let it stop paying for the federal food assistance program known as SNAP. Payments have been interrupted during the government shutdown. Late last night, a federal appeals court had ordered the Trump administration to restore full funding to the program. NPR's Tovia Smith has more.
A deal to reopen the government could get full payments flowing almost as quickly, but the SNAP lapse may have longer-term ramifications. Food pantries say they expect high demand to continue as many SNAP recipients need to restock their cupboards, and some food banks say they expect to be short on stock since some large food orders they usually get from the government were not processed during the shutdown. Tovia Smith, NPR News.
China has added 13 chemical ingredients that can be used to make fentanyl to a list of controlled substances. This is in line with trade talks with the U.S. last month, where China agreed to do more to combat opioid production. NPR's Emily Fang has more.
Fentanyl traffickers have long purchased large quantities of industrial chemicals from Chinese manufacturers, mixing them elsewhere and then smuggling the final drug into the U.S. In exchange for China's extra controls this week, the U.S. agreed to halve a tariff it had slapped on Chinese goods in retaliation for what it said was China's lax enforcement of fentanyl precursors. China and the U.S. have cooperated in the past to investigate and arrest precursor makers in China, but that cooperation has been tested by tensions between the two countries, including 3 years ago when former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the island of Taiwan, angering China and prompting Beijing to suspend its fentanyl combating operations with the U.S. Emily Fang, NPR News.
On Wall Street, the Dow is flat. The Nasdaq is up more than 1%. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The investigation continues into a blade that fell from a 300-foot-tall turbine and into a Plymouth cranberry bog last Friday. The incident has sparked critics of wind energy to renew their call for the state legislature to back away from its net zero by 2050 mandate. The Plymouth Fire Department says it responded to a call from a concerned neighbor who noticed one of the three blades on a nearby wind turbine suddenly missing around 2 p.m. on Friday. Upon arrival, the firefighters found the roughly 75 to 100 feet long blade hundreds of feet away from the base of the turbine, resting in an open cranberry bog area. No injuries reported. Friday's blade collapse follows a similar incident off the shores of Nantucket in the summer of 2024. According to a recently released report from the Cambridge Department of Public Health, opioid-related overdoses and overdose deaths substantially declined in 2024 compared to the previous year. The Crimson reports the decline mirrors a national trend last year and follows years of harm reduction efforts in Cambridge. Thursday's DPH data says that there were 116 reported opioid overdoses in Cambridge in 2024. That's down from 161 in 2023 and 219 in 2022. The report also shows that 18 people died in Cambridge from opioid-related overdoses. That's a decrease from 31 in 2023 and 45 in 2022. 53 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Kauffman Foundation, providing access to opportunities that help people achieve financial stability, upward mobility, and economic prosperity regardless of race, gender, or geography. Kauffman.org.
You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're not going to be at the Boston Public Library tomorrow because the library is closed for Veterans Day, but we will be back there on Wednesday. Mary Wu will join us on November 18th at the library, and on November 19th, Yo-Yo Ma is going to perform at the Boston Public Library. No tickets needed, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So it's day 41 of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, but as I'm sure you know, cracks have formed as 7 Democrats and 1 independent joined the Republicans in the Senate to apparently bring it to an end, funding the government through January 30th and agreeing to the promise of a future vote in the next few weeks on health care premiums, meaning no guarantees of anything on the issue that Democrats were holding out on. The rest of the Senate Democrats, other than those 7, criticized their colleagues who signed on, saying there should be no compromise until the issue of health care tax credits is actually addressed, which, once again, it was not at all. So what's your take? Should the Democrats have continued to hold out to protect affordable health premiums for millions, using their election success from last week as some leverage, or was it time to restore federal services before more families went hungry, more flights got canceled, more federal employees continued to work without pay? Give us a call or text 877-301-8970. And by the way, 3 of the leaders of this effort have constituents listening to the show. Well, there are probably others too. The 2 New Hampshire senators, Hassan and Shaheen, were part of this group, as was Angus King, the independent in Maine. So we particularly like to hear how you feel about your senators. I have to say, I am stunned.
Me too.
And
Me too.
What's your take on this?
What's my take on it? Well, I don't think...
in the hall. What's your take on this? Oh, no. No, yeah, you're
the coffee machine?
You're the only other person in the room,
okay.
So I'd love your take, if you don't mind.
My take is the big issue is health care, and the Democrats are holding out to get these Obamacare subsidies reinstated or going forward, and all they got is a vote on Obamacare. And what makes them think that the Republicans are going to vote to extend these subsidies? Well,
even if they did, Trump has said he doesn't want to do the subsidies, so he'd veto it probably, even if the Senate and the House voted to do something.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about how Democrats are so disgusted with their own party, and part of the reason they're disgusted with their own party is they feel like it doesn't fight for anything. Well, this is just another cave. I think the Democrats were happier when the Democrats were fighting, and we had an election last week which seemed to confirm that. So I
agree. Well, also, you know what these 7 Democrats senators seem to be saying? That in light of the fact that even if we won back the House, we, meaning the Democrats, them, and we, the Democrats, they would say, even if they won the Senate, which is very unlikely in the next election, we really can't do anything. We're basically saying we're going to let people be starved on health care at least for 3 more years until there's another presidential election.
That's what it looks like.
I am, part of what they had to say, these 7 Democrats, was, well, we didn't think Trump would ever give in. But the bottom line is you're winning the public battle
and
here.
More people are blaming Trump and the Republicans than we're blaming the Democrats.
And so I am really stunned by this. And if they suggest that the vote is worth anything. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, kept saying when he was challenged by Marjorie Taylor Greene, we have a health plan, care plan ready to go the second the vote to reopen the government is. Are we going to hear what his health plan is when the House votes to go along with what the Senate?
No, because there is no health
There is
plan.
no plan, exactly. 877-301-8970.
As much as people are concerned about SNAP benefits, and that's obviously legitimate, I mean, people obviously need food, but when you're talking about the money difference, I mean, the premiums are going to double, like from $1,500 to $3,000. I mean, that's not, SNAP benefits are small compared to that. $200 a month,
the plaintiffs like
$300 a
Andrea
month.
Campbell, our Attorney General, were winning in court.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some holdups. We'll talk about that a little bit with Corby Kummer in the noon hour. But the reality is they were winning this. And there's no question there was some federal employees were not getting paid. It was a nightmare. There was no guarantee that they'd even be paid once they went back in, even though my understanding it's the law. But the central issue for the Democrats, the reason they voted not to extend government funding was to protect, as you say, healthcare premiums for people that were ready to skyrocket. And they basically capitulated.
And you know what else? You look at this bunch. I mean, okay, Kane, he ran for vice president. He's from Virginia, where a lot of federal workers are not getting paid, so maybe he had more pressure on him. But you look at this bunch and you just think, is this the future of the Democratic Party that I want to see?
Well, the good news, let me just say that there are 50, there are 47 Democratic senators or senators who at least caucus for the Democrats, including Bernie Sanders is an independent right now, right? And Angus King's an independent. So it's essentially 47 Democrats or Democrat-leading people. 40 of them decided to hold strong. Now, the bad news is they're not going to win the day, but the good news is the vast majority of Democrats in the House and the Senate decided they would stand up to Trump on this. There's a real question as to whether or not the American people are going to understand that nuance, or all they're going to know is the Democrats promised they're going to protect our health care premiums, and they did not. They folded. And I think they're sadly going to group all those Democrats together, which is really, I am stunned that there was this capitulation, which is really what it is. Maybe you don't agree with that. 877-301-8970.
I also wonder how it came about, how much back and forth there was between the people that were agreeing to this, like Hassan and Sheehan, as you said, and Shaheen, and the ones who weren't. You know, if there was talk about this?
Well, obviously, it was talk about it. I mean, Schumer is obviously putting pressure on them. Schumer came out against this on the 7 moderates to say, don't do this. I mean, Fetterman was there all along. Angus King was there all along. But I think this is just unconscionable. Forget the politics. What do you say to the 22 million people who are dependent on these additional subsidies? I'd love to hear what these 7 senators say to them. Mary in Boston, you are first. Welcome. Hi.
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 I do not think it's capitulation.
Okay.
I think they did the right thing.
Why?
Everyone knows now what the issues are and how the Republicans are not for the American people.
Well, Mary, that's really comforting. That's really comforting if you're one of the people who's losing, having your Obamacare premiums double, is I don't think you go to bed comfortable at night saying, well, at least the American people know where Trump stands. I think what you say is, they promised me they were going to fight for me, and they didn't.
Listen, no matter how long this shutdown took place, this was not going to change the Republicans at all.
You have no idea. You don't know. So why bother to fight anything? Just say Trump's president. The Republicans don't care about the people, so let them do whatever they want.
They don't.
What?
So at least people will get SNAP benefits.
Well, they're getting SNAP. They were winning in court anyway. I hear you. Obviously, these 7 Democrats agree with you. I don't. I think it shows that the Democrats, as a total group, just don't know how to fight. Mary, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. 877-301-8970 is the number there.
A lot of our texters are disgusted. Here's one. I'm disgusted with these Democrats. Let's vote them out. Weak sauce from these few. Proud of the Dems still holding the line. 8 Democrats are traitors.
7 Democrats.
7 Democrats are traitors. I think pretty much. Well, there are some people who think the government should have stayed open.
Well, Mary did. Tom and Needham, you're next. Hello there, Tom. Welcome.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Perfectly.
Okay, so this was absolutely a capitulation. And if you have to explain your strategy about how we got the Republicans on record and that's the only thing we gained, it's just ridiculous. That's not a winning strategy. It's just, bottom line is, these guys haven't lost my vote, my protest, my money. They just gained my apathy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually, sadly, a wonderful way to put it. I think a lot of people, they're not going to all of a sudden vote for Trumpians, but I think their enthusiasm, as you suggest, Tom, may be on the wane. Thank you for the call and your perspective. We appreciate it.
Here's a texter who says, I agree with Chuck Todd. The Democrats made their point, and it's time to reopen the government. Another texter says, time to reopen. Again, the Democrats' point has been proven. Tacos lavish parties while simultaneously snatching SNAP benefits only sheds more light on the cruelty of Taco 2.0. They, of course, are making that line about Trump. What
Here's
are you
a good one.
at?
He says, stop fretting, anonymous texter, stop fretting, Jim. POTUS says, President of the United States says, every American is going to get $2,000. He did say out of the tariff money. Combine that with my $5,000 Doge check, and we're all going to be rich. Right, we were going to get a Doge check. We're going to get $2,000 from the tariffs, according to Trump. And by the way, he said, did he not say over the weekend he wants the money that would have been used, has been used for the extra subsidies for Obamacare premiums to be redirected to directly go to the American people, which is also never going to happen. 877-301-8970 is the number.
Let's go to Deirdre in Newton. Thanks for calling.
Hello, Deirdre.
Hi, how are you today?
Fine, thanks.
I wondered, I thought that the plan for these Democrats was to only have the funding until the end of January, and then they had another opportunity to stop the progress or the go forward with the Republicans' plan for all of the funding.
Wait, give me that again.
I don't. Well, they have to have a vote. The Republicans have to vote on extending the subsidies, and I think the reason some people, including myself, are skeptical is they don't think the Republicans will vote to extend the subsidies. So they've opened the government for nothing.
So at the end of January, then they won't have another opportunity to hold the Republicans.
Oh, no. Oh, I misunderstood. They've been promised a vote in the Senate in December. Actually. But there are two things. One, the fact they've been promised a vote doesn't mean there will be one. That's one. And two, the fact they're promised a vote doesn't mean any Republicans are going to vote with them. And even if all 47 Democrats voted, let's extend the premiums, the premium help, they would need four Republicans to vote with them. And I don't see any guarantee or any indication that's going to happen. The interviews I've heard, Deirdre, with the 7 Democrats who decided to cut this deal with the Republicans, not one has said they've been guaranteed Republican votes. All they've said is they're guaranteed a vote, which, at least from my perspective, based on history, is not much. Deirdre, thank you for the call. 877-301-8970.
Here's a texter. I'm firmly coming down on both sides of this issue. I'm flying to California Thursday for a wedding, so I'm glad this is over. On the other hand, Trump wins again, like he always done.
Well, it's funny. I meant to say, don't you think? I don't know why the Democrats should worry about this more than the Republicans. Don't you think the threats about Thanksgiving flights had a huge? But why do they care about this more than anybody else should care about?
Well, I just look at these. I look at Shaheen and Hassan. They've been there forever.
Well, Hassan hasn't been there. Well,
she was governor.
Yeah, she was governor.
So she has been there forever.
So was Shaheen.
And Shaheen has been there forever. I don't know how long.
So what's your point?
Well, it's just.
Well, Markey's been there forever. He's voting no on this thing.
I know, but he's unusual. I think he's unusual.
Well, they're not unusual. The vast majority of Democrats, 40 of them, are not with them.
She and moderate Democrats, I would say.
They are.
That do things in a kind of moderate way.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they moderated themselves into a real hole on this one. Okay, let's go to
it's horrible.
David.
How do you, in all seriousness, I'm hoping, we haven't heard yet, if there's any one of you that's among the 22 million people who are dependent upon this premium assistance, if you're listening and you tell Who's Taking Calls Mira that you are one of those people, we'd love to talk to you. So please give us a buzz.
Here's a texter who says they should have held the line. Schumer doesn't have the leadership he should have. I can't afford the $2,000 premiums. I can't get over how little until our Congress knows how insurance works. I am pissed off.
Oh, there you go. David and Conway, hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
My thoughts on this are as follows. Donald Trump has declared war on the American people. He hasn't written it out, but we can see through his actions, the actions of ICE, denying due process, using excessive force, and using chemical weapons on American citizens. We can see that he has declared war. He has furthered that by using SNAP as a tool of that war. Now, most of the world recognizes that using food as a weapon of war is a criminal act. And I would say, who's gonna take up this cause and bring it to court? Secondly, I would say we are lacking in leadership. Schumer and Jeffries are not taking this attempted fascist takeover as serious as they should, and we need someone who will.
Can I just...
go ahead.
That was an excellent call. The one place I disagree with you said early on, he hasn't written it out. He actually has written it out. It's Project 2025. One of the reasons he's been able to do so much so quickly is because the Republicans actually planned for winning and knew exactly what to do. And that's why every single day there are 2, 3, 4 things that happen. Other than that, your call, I think, is perfectly accurate. I think it's exactly what's going on. And in terms of leadership, if a Republican strayed, Donald Trump would call him on the phone, and that'd be the end of that. Apparently, Schumer doesn't have the power to say to these 7 Democrats, it's really important you toe the line for the good of the American people. So, David, excellent call. Thanks.
Peggy from Saugus, you give in to a bully, he'll just keep being a bully. Paul from Fort Lauderdale, now I feel like we have no representation at all, completely disgusted. An anonymous texter, small d, democracy, big D, disappointment.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're dependent upon this healthcare thing, it's a real disappointment.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, not to downplay the crisis with SNAP and not having money for food. Again, compared to what people's premiums are going to be, and who knows, a lot of those people may be SNAP recipients as well, they're going to be in big trouble.
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree when you say compared to. If people are getting no SNAP benefits, I would say there's real pressure if I'm a senator to vote to reopen the government. But the lawsuits have been successful.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Well, in Massachusetts, apparently they did get 100% because Healy loaded those cards right in between the court decisions. Yeah. In a lot of states, it's not 100%, but it's not nothing either. And things were going well in the courts, so I don't get that.
And I do think this would be, as awful as it is, it would be a short-term awful as opposed to your premiums being this way for who knows how long. I mean, that's a lot. To double your premiums?
Can you answer my question from a minute ago? Maybe you answered it and I just didn't hear. If you're one of these 7 Democrats and a constituent says, I'm one of the 22 million people who is totally dependent on the help from the federal government to pay my Obamacare premiums, since you decided not to fight to the end for this, if the vote is not won in December, which it will not be, I essentially have to wait for 3 years and 2 months until January of 2029, when you hopefully will deliver a Democratic president. I mean, that's essentially what they're saying, right? That is what they're saying.
Well, as you said, Trump has said he's going to veto it, so I don't know. I just don't get it. I just don't get.
Well, they're not going to vote for anything decent anyway. Forget veto. It's never going to get to a veto. Which Republican, other than Marjorie Taylor Greene, has spoken out and said it's outrageous that these premiums are going to be doubled, more than doubled?
You know, she says she doesn't believe anymore that the Jewish space lasers started the wildfires in California.
I didn't know that.
She says she has crawled out of the QAnon hole.
She has?
She's not in that hole anymore. She almost sounded statesman-like, Jim, on television these last few days.
She almost did. Keith in no, she did. In Manchester, New Hampshire, obviously a constituent of Senators Hassan and Shaheen. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi. Hey, I have a question. Can you put a reporter on something? I'm never going to be able to hold Hassan or Shaheen accountable probably ever again. But Stephanie Shaheen, Shaheen's daughter, is running for Congress right now.
Yeah.
And I would be interested to find out what she thinks of this decision, because that would inform my decision voting in next year's primary.
Why would you say you can't hold? I mean, I know
Shaheen is not running
retiring,
for re-election,
but
right?
it's Hassan.
Shaheen's not running again, and Hassan will almost certainly not run again.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Well, I would suggest, Keith, we have no power to order anybody to do anything. That's number one. We can make a recommendation. I would suggest something really radical. Why don't you call the Shaheen Daughters Campaign and ask her what her position is on her mother's vote? I mean, if she's running for Congress, I would assume she would have a position on this, no?
I couldn't.
That is a problem. I would assume.
I think you might be able to find it on the website. I mean, usually they have people's positions on the website. I don't know about this particular woman, but typically they do. Keith, but thank you. What's your sense from your neighbors up there in New Hampshire? Have you talked to anybody yet?
I've talked to a handful, 6, 7 people. And they all just kind of shake their heads in disgust.
Yeah. I like I said, I don't get it. I'm not clear how they were thinking this would help their careers. 877.
Before you go away, I have to say, I was about to, before you hung up, Keith, said it took me about 10 seconds to find her phone number. Actually, there is no phone. There is no phone. No, I'm wrong.
I couldn't find it.
There's no phone number on her campaign website, which is really strange. We're going to try to find it for you, and if we find it before the end of the next segment, we'll say it on the air. Can one of you guys try to find Stephanie Shaheen's
guess maybe she doesn't want you to
phone
ask
number?
any questions.
I don't know. I don't know anything about the woman. Keith, thank you for the call. We appreciate you giving it to us. 877-301-8997. You know what I'm dying? I haven't seen like a press conference from your two favorite people, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. By the way, they took the right position on this. They did. But they failed, or at least Schumer failed, clearly. And I'm dying to hear what they say is the Democrats' next move,
Okay. We are talking about the surprise. I think I was surprised anyway.
I was surprised.
That 7 Democrats have decided they're going to cave and they're going to reopen the government and give up the fight to restore or extend reasonable health care premiums for people that use Obamacare, which is an awful lot of people. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NAPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
First came the earthquakes.
The crack that opened November 10th is under here.
Then came the lava.
There were 3 houses that went under. This one here, and one more that lava went all over.
We visit an Icelandic town 2 years after it was evacuated to see what's left. Next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Minus 33 Merino Wool in Ashland, New Hampshire. Since 1916, makers of all-natural merino wool underwear, outerwear, and New Hampshire-made socks. Their merino wool clothing and accessories are available at minus33.com. And GM Roth Design Remodeling. Dreams delivered. With custom kitchens, bathrooms, and additions. Serving New England for over 39 years. Learn more at gmroth.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browder, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're talking about the deal that 7 Democrats cut with the Republicans, essentially to reopen the government, getting no guarantee whatsoever on the health care premium issue that was the cause of the Democrats' vote to begin with. Keith just called, said he couldn't find a phone number for Stephanie Shaheen, who is the daughter of one of the architects of this deal, United States Senator Jeanne Shaheen. Stephanie Shaheen is running for Congress. Well, USA Today, thank you to our colleagues, Here's a quote from Stephanie Shaheen. We need to both end the shutdown and extend the health care subsidies, she wrote on social media. Otherwise, no deal. So apparently she doesn't agree with her mother.
Have broken ranks there.
By the way, we still can't find a phone number, but we do know what her position is.
And now Dan from Shrewsbury makes a point that I think is a valid one. He says, I'm independent, lean left, think it's good to reopen. People are hurting. Republicans don't care that the government is shut down or about health care. And now they own the health care issue. I think the Dems come out looking better. I mean, that is a good point. If it comes to this vote in December and the Republicans totally screw health care. I mean, obviously, people are going to notice that. So that's not going to put them in a very good position.
Well, I'm with that guy, though, who talked about nuance. You think the average person is going to figure out that they really stuck it to the Republicans and made clear they're the ones that are the problem? I think the only headline people are going to know is a bunch of Democrats agreed to reopen the government without a deal on health care.
Well, but I think in December, if the Republicans vote against health care, the Obamacare extensions, then people are going to notice
They're going to do the exact same thing they did before. They're going to say it's because they want to give the health care to prisoners and undocumented people. They'll lie again.
I don't know. I don't think.
So why is this? So why don't you support what they did? That's great. They can expose the Republicans in December.
Because they look like they're crawling across the floor again for Donald Trump. That's why I think people are tired of everybody crawling across the floor for Donald Trump. I mean, it's bad enough when the Republicans do it, and now the Democrats are doing it as well. That was one of Sheldon Whitehouse's best lines. How much are they willing to crawl for this guy? And now we know they're like little snakes, not even crawling. They're kind of slithering across the floor.
Anonymous texter said, I'll only read the second half. Speaker Mike Johnson's Republican health care plan is on Pam Bondi's desk next to the Epstein file.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, now that the House is coming back.
After 2 months, by the way. They've been out. They have not met in 2 months. Go ahead.
They will have to vote on releasing the Epstein
files. And he's
files.
got to swear in the new woman from the Southwest, which, unless Trump was able to convince any of the Republicans to switch their votes, means there'll be a majority to force the release of the Epstein files. Faith in North Andover. Hi.
Hi, kids.
Hi.
Like you, I was completely stunned last night at this whole debacle that took place. I have a couple of questions for you guys. I'm not knowledgeable enough about this, and maybe you can shed some light.
Jim can.
I doubt that, but go ahead. Go ahead.
We can hope. Two things. One, what do you think about the Senate coming for a vote on a Sunday night at 11 o'clock at night or some ridiculous thing? And the second thing I'm curious about what you think is if the Dems were somehow able to flip the House and the Senate in the midterm, would that lead to an impeachment of Trump and get rid of him for the following 2 years?
I'm so glad you asked me questions I can actually answer. One,
go ahead, Jim.
It might lead to an impeachment. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to do that again. It wouldn't lead to a conviction because they don't have the supermajority necessary for that. And the reason why they voted late at night is whenever you're in the majority and you decide when the votes are called and you cut a deal even with a small percentage of the opposition party, you call the vote as fast as you can before any of the people who've joined you from the other party have an opportunity to switch because there's so much pressure on them. So that's why they wanted them on the record. And once they're on the record, it's much less likely they're going to be switching their vote before the next round of this thing. Faith, thanks for your call and thanks for your point of view.
You see that perspective from this anonymous texter?
Say it.
I'm a woman from Fall River who relies on health care subsidies even though I work 2 jobs. I believe what the Dems did was an act of greed. I believe the Dems that didn't fight for us will benefit from our pain in some way. This government has contempt for its people.
Yeah, well, that's not a happy. Didn't Fall River go for the Democratic city of Fall River go for Donald Trump?
For the first time ever, they went for Donald Trump.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that caused them to do it. John from Westford, welcome, John. Good to talk to you.
Hi, nice to talk with you.
Thanks.
If the rates are going to double, does that mean that the rates before COVID and then the Biden stimulus, does that mean they were twice as high as they should have been?
I only got a part of this, but because your connection is horrible. But if your question was this not, and we can put you on hold and we'll try to get back to you when it's better, but I think your question was about, yes, these premium assists were raised
for COVID
during COVID
by Biden.
Right. And so, and maybe what John is saying is by not continuing them, all we're doing is going back to what the pre-COVID level was. And if that was your point, John, that is factually true. But obviously, these 22 million people, at least a huge percentage of them, are dependent on the extra premium help.
I mean,
thanks for your call.
Obamacare was supposed to make healthcare affordable, right? That was what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I always say most people would argue that $3,000 or more a month for your healthcare is not for most people an affordable price to pay.
Paul from Sandy Neck, why should anyone take the threat of a shutdown seriously again? We've lost a credible threat against the Republicans. That actually is about all we have time for, unfortunately. We're going to talk, Brian McGrory from formerly The Globe, now BU journalist, and we're going to talk to him about this and get a third, we have a lot of perspectives, but another perspective on what he thinks about the Democrat position here.
Okay, I am Jim. He's Jim Browdy.
Wait. What's that again? What was that? You're who?
I was saying I am Jim Browdy. I'm a little under the weather today.
I know, but
I'm a little out of it.
But you knew you're not, right?
I know I'm not.
You know you're not.
I know I'm not.
You caught yourself, but you didn't catch yourself before the gym. You caught yourself before the Browdy. The gym part you were good with, and then we got to the Browdy thing. That really threw you for a loop, right?
Yeah.
Marjorie is a little under the weather.
I'm under the weather.
And I have to say, she's a real trooper for whatever you're doing.
I'm a trooper.
Showing up today.
I'm a trooper.
I'm Marjorie. Oh, no, I'm not Marjorie.
No, I'm Marjorie.
Oh, you're Marjorie.
He is Jim Browdy.
Right.
You're listening to BPR and GBH and NAPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to talk with Brian McGrory when we get back. We're going to ask him what he thinks about this government shutdown going backwards and pardons for Rudy Giuliani.
Thank God.
I know, that's right. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NAPM. 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Brighton studios, 877-301-8970.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, 2 centuries ago, an enslaved potter named David Drake inscribed his name and his poetry onto the massive stoneware jars he made in South Carolina. Now, in an historic act of restitution, the Museum of Fine Arts has returned 2 of these vessels to his descendants. They join us to reflect on art, ancestry, and reclaiming a family legacy once thought lost to history. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the law firm of Davis Malm. Immigration laws are not foreign to their attorneys. Learn more at davismalm.com. Davis Malm. Lean, agile, strategic. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing helpful digital tools, world-class providers, and coverage that help you live in the moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're not at the library tomorrow because the library's closed for Veterans Day. Back there on Wednesday. Mayor Wu joins us, I think next, I don't know when the 18th,
the 18th.
is. Whatever the day the 18th is. And, well, wait a second. The 18th is a Tuesday. It's
at the library.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yes.
Oops, okay. And on November 19th, Yo-Yo Ma joins us at the library as well. Joined now on Zoom by Brian McGrory. Brian is the chair of the BU Journalism Department, former editor of the Boston Globe. Hey, Brian.
Hello there, Jim. Hey there, Marjorie. How are you guys?
Hi, Brian McGrory. So we were just talking with our listeners about what they thought about the 7 Democrats who caved and decided to reopen the government, the politics. If they thought it was a good political move, what do you think?
I thought it was 8, not 7. Is it 7?
7.
I thought it was 7.
Yeah, it is 7.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's 8 because 8. Rand Paul, we've been saying 7 the whole hour, and you just humiliated us. It's 8.
Some of the texters said 8, too.
One of the Republicans, Rand Paul, I believe it's Rand Paul, is not with the Republicans. It is 8. Take it away, Brian.
Well, the other notable occurrence on your show is, for the first time in history, someone mistakenly saying I'm Jim Browdy.
She did. It's a very sad moment. Thank you.
Honestly, this thing is playing out in real time. I don't know what I make of it at this point. There's a lot more work to be done on Capitol Hill. I have a hard time reflexively getting angry, as Schumer is, the Senate leader, and as Hakeem Jeffries is the House leader, over people who are willing to not just sit with their party and maybe consider two sides to something. So this is going to be very interesting the way it plays out over the next 24 hours.
Wait, you say look at two sides of something. Well, the one side they're not looking at is the issue the Democrats went out on, which is help with healthcare premium, Obamacare premiums, which are more than going to double what these 8 Democrats, I don't know if you know it was 8, not 7, what the 8 Democrats were able to get is nothing, is a vote in December, which will be, I think we would agree, meaningless. Would you not agree with that?
I do agree with that. I mean, look, it's an extension that would open up the opportunity for more time to negotiate this stuff without Thanksgiving air traffic hanging over everybody's head like the worst cudgel imaginable, and families not having money to feed themselves, which is actually worse than the FAA issues we've got going on.
Well, I mean, let me just say two things to that. One, it seems to me that the bulk of the nightmarish food situation was being resolved in the courts, or at least was in the process of it. And it seems to me if there was chaos on Thanksgiving, and of course, this is someone speaking who was not going to fly anywhere, namely me, it's so far the Democrats, as inept as they've historically been, have been pretty good at pinning this on Donald Trump. Have they not? And so
Jim,
maybe that would cause Trump to say, or at least the Republicans to say to Trump, we got to cut a deal. No?
I disagree on both fronts. Number one, if you know what these courts are going to do, what anyone in the judiciary is going to do, then you're the only one who does, because they seem to be reversing each other constantly. One court will rule one way, an appellate judge will rule another way, the Supreme Court will step in and do something entirely different. There is no clear path to resolution on the SNAP issue, none whatsoever. I will press back hard on that. And in terms of who is getting blamed for this, how can you see that Trump is the one that is going to handle the bulk of the blame on this, or receive the bulk of the blame on this? I don't see that. He's been a master at sidestepping responsibility for all of this stuff. I'm not saying he's going to be successful this time in doing that. I just don't think it's a sure thing that you do from your radio talk studio.
So wait a second. So, okay, well, then I have to continue this. Remember when you used to be a columnist? You remember that when you were before you were the editor?
Those were the days,
Those
Jim.
were the days. So your position, if you were still writing a column for the Boston Globe, would be, well, on one hand, yeah. On the other hand, I can see both sides of this.
Jim, knock it off. That's no. Look, I think this is an utterly miserable moment in this country. I mean, it is awful. It is awful when the President of the United States and his administration actually reach their grubby hands into the one thing that people want to be able to do, and that is maybe be able to get on an airplane and escape the troubles that we are facing to go see family. And you have the White House stepping in on that and saying, you know what, we are even going to create chaos around a national holiday so you can't experience this. No, I'm not saying that any of this is good. What I am saying is I am not at all convinced that it's the president that's going to take the blame on this if it actually happened.
Wow. I thought that president taking the blame for much of this stuff was what happened in the election last week. No?
Well, that was a better answer than mine. How about that one,
It is
Brian?
a better answer than Jim's. Yes, I agree with that, Marjorie. I agree with that. Whether that exists in a year from now, whether it's, look, we all love to read tea leaves, and in ways like that, we have no idea what's going to be going on a year from now when the consequential midterms are unfolding.
We do not. We do not.
You know, before we leave that, though, about Trump, whether people catch on with Trump, I forgot, you were a White House person in your former life, too, even before the...
Well, Jim, it's not called a White House person. It's called, I was the White House correspondent for the Boston.
That's right.
Excuse me very much. So did the ripping down of the East Wing have any particular impact on you that it might not have on those of us who've never been there?
Like so much of all of this, it's horrible to see, like just horrible. I mean, I'm still amazed that paving over the Rose Garden got as little publicity as it actually. I mean,
it's so tacky.
The history that unfolded in the Rose Garden, the deals that were signed, the ceremonies that were held, is you would take it would require a 10-hour show to go through that, and then just taking a wrecking ball, literally in the way he did to the East Wing, is unconscionable. So no, that did have an impact on me. Yes. Did it not have an impact on you?
No, but I mean, I assume it's when you hear people who had physically been there and their reaction is like a much more visceral. I mean, I was appalled by the whole thing and the process and the visual. But I think if you've been there and experienced and worked in and around it like you have, it's got to have an even deeper kind of impact. And apparently it did.
It does. But I actually think, and the metaphor has been played out endlessly and nearly mindlessly at this point. But the bigger impact that it had for me was that President Trump could just literally take a wrecking ball to all the history that was going on there.
Yeah.
Far more meaningful than the physical place. It's that he has the authority, has it in his mind that he can do this without repercussion, just taking down entire sections of a historic building like the White House.
Yeah, and people that visit the White House go through the east wing of the White House to get in there, right?
They arrive in the East Wing.
Yeah, so millions of Americans have been in that East Wing, too, looking at the different pictures and the First Lady's offices and all those things. But anyway, so now the president has decided he's going to pardon Rudy Giuliani for his involvement in the saying that the election was stolen. I guess.
And Sidney Powell and Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff.
I guess it shouldn't be a surprise, but just more of the same.
More of the same, and given the weekend that it happens, when all that is unspooling with the BBC abroad, it just. I think it underscores the fearlessness that Trump has in raising any of these issues and how little he seems to care that they're going to cost him politically. Like, why spend the capital to pardon Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell when, maybe I'm wrong here, Jim, and you'll tell me if I am, they haven't even been charged with federal crimes?
Well, is that true? I'm not sure what the answer. You sound like you're more certain than I am, so you might be true. Our colleagues will check in a minute. I know there's been disbarment situations with both of them.
Yep.
Powell and for Giuliani.
Yep.
I don't know about, and obviously Giuliani lost that huge verdict in Georgia involving Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman, the election workers. But maybe you're right. Maybe they have not been charged with crimes. We'll check.
I think Trump is just raising this in the way he does to remain at the forefront of the news cycle and to just drive this stuff home for his base. And he just doesn't care what the rest of the public thinks.
Well, were you talking about the East Wing a minute ago? You couldn't, or whatever you were talking about a minute ago, you said you couldn't believe the public focused so little on this. The thing that I keep going back to was Steve Bannon's prescient thing, how they're going to flood the zone. And it literally, by the time we go on the air every day, 11 o'clock, there are usually 2 or 3 major moments for Donald Trump, and you really can't catch up. And something like this, pardoning these people who were involved in this completely phony effort to, and also an effort to undo the Constitution by overturning the election results, it's not even going to be a blip on a screen for people, which is really incredibly disheartening for me, at least. So,
well, you mentioned, Jim. Sorry to cut you off, Marjorie.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Jim, you mentioned a bit ago that I used to be a columnist.
You were. I remember that.
I have this column in my head that I've written many, many times. And last time I was on, you pointed out that I don't really write a column anywhere. And
I did say that.
You hurt my feelings. We haven't been speaking, but you haven't noticed. So the column I have in my head is whatever Trump does this week, whatever crazy thing he does, which is, tear down the East Wing, pave over the Rose Garden, cause families to starve, all of that and more, play havoc with the nation's air traffic system. You will forget this by 2 weeks from now. You'll forget it next month. You'll forget it happens. Like, we can't remember if Rudy Giuliani has ever been charged with a federal crime. We have no idea. I don't think he has been.
He hasn't. Our colleagues, you were right about both of them.
But the thing about the Bannon-esque idea of flooding the zone is you forget it all in a week. And Trump has too. And he's moved on. And his point in the moment is to disrupt and control, but rarely there's a solution for the disruption. I guess with the East Wing, there is going to be a ballroom. How long that takes to be built, I have no idea. In the case of the Rose Garden, there is an actual patio, which is tacky as all hell. But there is so much going on that it is impossible to remember even a couple of weeks out what already happened.
Well,
I could not disagree more. I mean, if you're a real, because I think that there is a sense, as one of the texters just said, that our government now is out to get me. And when you look at the combination of things, the roughhousing with these ICE people that are, mothers and daughters, you see that. You see the Gatsby party. You see the tearing down. You see the $40 million to Argentina. If you're at all paying attention, there's this kind of a sense of like an FU to American people, which I think you have that feeling that he's not. I mean, I've never felt before that my government was out to get me. I certainly do now, and I'm not even a person, I'm not somebody that came from another country or something. You just feel this. He's after you.
I agree with that, Marjorie, completely. The mood of it, the tone of it. I don't know that people remember the specifics of it because there are so many.
Yeah.
It's just the mood is he's out to screw us.
Right.
And if we're not in his base, he's going to screw us. But whether you can remember the specific things that he's doing, I mean, if you went back and looked at a front page or a homepage of the New York Times 1 month ago, I personally guarantee you wouldn't remember 5 of the top news stories that seem so outrageous in that moment.
Well, that's probably true.
Well, except let me give it a try, even though I think Marjorie did better than me a second time on this thing. One of the things that the shutdown did, and I understand that a strategic win should not be the goal. The goal should be to help people, is it did keep a lot of the issues like the Great Gatsby Party, like the 350 and counting million gilded ballroom in the forefront, because the Democrats, as inept as they are at messaging, Brian, I think they were pretty decent at juxtaposing the excesses that Trump was willing to embrace almost every single day, while at the same time letting people go hungry, federal workers not get paid, all that sort of thing. So I think that was actually their best platform to at least share the limelight with Donald Trump rather than him dominate every news cycle. No?
Okay, I'm going to agree with that. I think we're talking about two different things, but yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay, I don't know if we are either, but in any case,
no, I don't think we are. I don't anymore.
So the head guy at the BBC and another person that was high up in the ranks over there have both resigned about the splicing together of words that Donald Trump used on the ellipsis on January 6th. What do you think?
Well, it's like, and again, here we're about to disagree again. In so much of what Trump does, in all its excess, in all its awfulness, there is often some tiny kernel of truth that he has to it that he can build around, right? And that it drives his opponents crazy. Mm-hmm. Not always, often. And here is Trump has all of these frivolous lawsuits against the media. Name a network. He's won millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, the number always seems to be 15 or 16. That's his go-to number. And in this one, for all of the frivolity of the Kamala Harris interview editing that went on with 60 Minutes and CBS, which was a completely moronic case. Like, there was no case there. This one, there is a slight kernel of truth to it. The BBC shouldn't have patched together a speech as they did. It did not appear to be the kind of routine editing that takes place in other interviews. There did seem to be some intentionality behind it. It allowed, whether in and of itself it was that big a deal, I probably doubt it, but it allowed opponents of the BBC, people in Trump's movement, to just kick the door open and get rid of 2 key people over there and make a big federal case out of it.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done it, absolutely. But he did say, I will be with you and let's fight like hell. I mean, he did say them in different parts. So to me, it was bad. They shouldn't have done it. But I didn't think it was 2 top people resigned worth bad. And I wondered why, because they're in another country, obviously. Are they worried about tariffs? Or, I mean, I don't get why they knuckle under so much in Britain as we do here.
I don't understand the story behind the story. I spent the weekend looking at the news outlets over there, from The Guardian to The Telegraph to the BBC itself, and I don't understand the significant response of having the number one guy resign and then the top newswoman resign. I don't know. I don't understand enough about British politics and the role that the House of Commons has on the BBC and all of that.
Yeah, neither do I.
I'd be far afield. I'm sure Jim's ready to wade in on it.
I do. British journalism is actually one of my areas. We're going to go back to the first topic because a very good friend of yours, Brian, who's a friend of ours too, Marjorie and mine, just texted me. I want to try this out on you. Isn't it possible the 8 Democrats acted at the behest of Schumer, so he wasn't the bad guy again, but now he can point to them. They're willing to carry his load because none of them are going to be around or threatened next year. What do you think of that thesis?
I actually think it would be so strategic and so wily that I'm not sure that he would be able to do that.
It's a very, very fine answer. We're talking to Brian McGrory, head of the journalism department at BU, former editor of the Boston Globe.
Well, we were talking about this before with the election last week, and I think we already discussed this, the idea of Americans catching on to Trump. But you seem to be of the school that so much happens so fast that we can't remember, and we're not catching on to him.
No, Marjorie, I agree with you that in mood and spirit we're catching on. You're absolutely right that the elections last week, whether it's Virginia or New Jersey or California, I do think that all bodes really, really well for the Democrats. I'd still have a hard time arguing that they have their act together, that they have a leader that they're ready to rally behind.
Yeah.
And the chaos is so overwhelming that I have a hard time imagining where we are a year from now. Look, the harder time I have imagining is Trump suddenly straightening all of this out and becoming a different human being and being somebody that the center can rally behind. So I do think he's going to get hurt and hurt bad in the midterm elections, and those are of course much more consequential than what just went on. But I'm just not as confident as Jim is in saying this is the way it is.
Well, I'm not totally confident that it is the way it is either, except that the only reason I have a dash of optimism, which I rarely have these days, is that Trump doubles down, another expression I hate, almost all the time on anything. He has an opportunity, for example, the last couple of days to say, do the typical politician, I feel your pain kind of thing. And in fact, he says, no, I want to redirect food benefits to other things so we can write a check to people. He never misses an opportunity, at least in my estimation, to make things worse. And the most reassuring thing he says, like he's on some tarmac yesterday, economy's great, America's never better. I mean, if you're...
No, I mean, Jim, he actually threatened states that were trying to get money to hungry people.
Oh, yes.
He threatened. I mean, that's not doubling down, that's quadrupling down.
That's true.
On already bad policy. I mean, that's not good. I mean, look, behind all of this, I mean, we haven't even talked about, the National Guard, and you mentioned what ICE continues to do and how that's not going anywhere. Behind all of this is a lurking issue of not the midterms, but 2028 and what Trump tries to do in 2028, because he's teasing this out on a very regular basis and seeming to sort of trial run, the idea that he wants to run in some form again. I think that is lurking out there as the biggest issue of his second administration and the biggest issue of our time, whether he runs again for president.
Well, if he runs again for president, Obama can run again for president. So that's a pretty decent matchup to look forward to.
Well, the idea,
do you think Obama would for a second want to get into that race?
I do.
J.D. Vance.
Really do.
I really do. What'd you say?
That's the thing, that J.D. Vance runs and Trump is the VP or something, and then he takes over when J.D. gets in.
There's this constitutional problem there, too. You can't run for vice president if you don't meet the constitutional requirements to be president of the United States.
He'll just make a deal with J.D. that J.D. runs, and then he'll take over the day he's sworn in.
Brian, it's nice to see you.
I feel like we had a lot of conflict here. But
we did. It's really unpleasant for me. I don't know about you, but it is what it is. Brian, talk to you soon. Be well.
Thank you very
Brian
much.
McGrory.
We've been speaking to Brian McGrory. He's the head of the BU journalism department. He was a longtime editor at the Boston Globe and a longtime columnist as well. So right after the news, we are going to talk. What are we going to talk about after the news?
Corby Kummer.
Oh, Corby Kummer.
We got the latest on Snap and some other things.
Yeah, and we're going to find out whether the supposed best sandwich shop in Boston is really the best sandwich shop in Boston. He's Jim Browdy. I'm Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio. Right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Boston Symphony Orchestra. This month at Symphony Hall, violinist Joshua Bell performs a rediscovered gem, and cellist Pablo Ferrandez brings the drama of Dvorak's Cello Concerto. BSO.org. From old jewelry to forgotten folk art, is beauty in the eye of the beholder, or are these eye-popping treasures just plain ugly? Guess the top find on Antiques Roadshow tonight at 8 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Hour 2 of BPR. We'll start the noon hour with the latest on SNAP and the government shutdown as the Senate makes progress on ending the shutdown. Still not clear when SNAP recipients can expect the full return of food assistance. We'll discuss that and much more with food policy analyst Corby Kummer.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then Boston Medical Center's Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett joins with Tamika Jackson from the Beautiful Way Foundation to talk racial equity in healthcare. Plus, our breathless, soon-to-be award-winning segment, Jim, Two More Things. That's next on the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The Senate has taken a major step toward ending the government shutdown. NPR's Claudia Grisales reports lawmakers voted last night to advance a deal that could allow the government to reopen later this week.
The package includes a stopgap measure to fund the government through the end of January. It also includes full-year appropriations funding plans for some federal agencies and services. It will pause planned cuts to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP. It also reverses federal worker layoffs installed by the Trump administration during the shutdown and protects the workforce from more cuts for a few months to the end of January.
That's NPR's Claudia Grisales reporting. The Supreme Court has declined to revisit its 2015 ruling that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. The justices rejected an appeal from former Kentucky clerk Kim Davis, who refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples after that decision. Davis sought to overturn an order requiring her to pay $360,000 in damages and legal fees. President Trump has issued a sweeping pardon of his allies related to the 2020 presidential election. The pardon names numerous campaign attorneys and people who met 5 years ago. NPR's Miles Parks reports that's when they tried to create alternate electoral slates.
The document pardons all those associated with a plot to make false electoral slates that could have potentially interfered with the presidential certification on January 6, 2021. It names Trump campaign attorneys Rudy Giuliani, Kenneth Chesebro, Mark Meadows, and John Eastman, as well as dozens of other people who met often in secret to sign documents claiming they were legitimate electors in states actually won by Joe Biden. The pardons are essentially symbolic, as none of the people pardoned have been charged with federal crimes. Some are charged in their individual states, but the pardon has no impact on those cases. Miles Parks, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump is meeting with the president of Syria today. NPR's Jane Aref reports.
President Ahmed Ashara will be the first Syrian head of state at the White House in almost 80 years. He's a former al-Qaeda in Iraq militant leader. A year ago, he had a $10 million U.S. bounty on his head. His fighters toppled dictator Bashar al-Assad last December. And since then, Trump has decided that Shara is someone he wants to deal with. Most sanctions on Shara and Syria have been removed, but there are still some to be lifted. Trump is expected to invite Syria to join U.S.-led efforts fighting the militant group ISIS. For NPR News, I'm Jane Araf in Amman.
Stocks are trading higher on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow was up 90 points, the Nasdaq up 378. This is NPR News in Washington.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A total of 56 flights have been canceled at Logan Airport so far today, the fourth day of the Federal Aviation Administration's order to reduce air traffic due to the ongoing government shutdown. FlightAware reports that along with the 56 cancellations, another 82 were delayed. Republic Airways is seeing the most cancellations at Logan with 21. JetBlue and Delta Airlines are also seeing double-digit cancellations at 11 and 10, respectively. JetBlue is experiencing the most flight delays at the airport by far. They've got 28 flights delayed today, and FlightAware says that number could increase as the day goes on. A total of 107 flights at Logan were canceled yesterday. The city of Worcester celebrates Veterans Day tomorrow with a full slate of events honoring the men and women who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces. And the Worcester Guardian reports the day will begin, as it does each year, with pancake breakfast at Veterans Inc. at its historic Armory headquarters on Grove Street. The breakfast, which is open to the public, typically draws hundreds of veterans and their families. Organizers say the event is both a celebration and a chance to pause and thank those who have worn the uniform. Following the breakfast is the city's 72nd annual Veterans Day Parade, and the day continues with wreath-laying ceremonies at two of the city's memorials, at 12:30 p.m. at the Korean War Memorial on Foster Street, and at 1:30 p.m. at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Green Hill Park. 54 degrees, this is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Because it's Veterans Day tomorrow and the library is closed, we won't be back there tomorrow. We will be back there on Wednesday. And a couple of programming notes. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, is going to join us at the library on November 18th. And on November 19th, Yo-Yo Ma is going to perform at the BPL. No tickets needed.
I can't go into the details, but can I tell you something just as a tease for next week?
Yep.
I was told by somebody who was at an event last week. Do you know who played music together last week?
The mayor and Yo-Yo Ma.
Yes, can you imagine that?
It's pretty cool.
In any case, we're joined now on Zoom by food policy analyst, multiple James Beard winner, Corby Kummer. Corby's the executive director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, senior editor at The Atlantic, and a senior lecturer at the Tuss Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. Hello there, Corby.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Marjorie.
Hi, Corby. So I know you've been following this SNAP mess very closely. Where are we now that we supposedly have an effort to open the government?
We're waiting for 4 p.m. to see if an appeals court will uphold the Rhode Island judge who said USDA and feds, you have to fund SNAP for November fully, not partially, but fully. Many states in the interim, including Massachusetts, said we're just going to start funding. We're going to use our own state reserves, which can't afford the full month. We could never afford a full month of SNAP. But Wisconsin, they're blue states, Wisconsin, Massachusetts, several others said we're just going to start issuing checks. Trump over the weekend, the administration on Saturday night said, undo any of the efforts you've made to comply with the court rulings in Massachusetts and Rhode Island saying you have to fund SNAP for November or you will pay a price. We will start withdrawing money from states. Many states interpreted this as a scare tactic, but it really has thrown multiple monkey wrenches into the idea of November SNAP benefits, and the percentage of veterans, parents of small children, and children who receive SNAP benefits is huge and staggering, and the idea that all of these people are being used as pawns is pretty horrifying.
Let me just, this is not a variation, but just a little bit of a supplement to what Corby said. He touched on some of this. NPR, about an hour ago, put out a news bulletin to NPR stations that the Trump administration, as was just said, has notified the Supreme Court. It still wants to fight the lower court rulings requiring 100% SNAP benefits be paid in November. We did it in Massachusetts because we slipped in right between the two court decisions. But he goes on to say, obviously making a really important point for Trump, administration officials noted if current efforts result in an end to the government shutdown, full benefits would resume. I mean, two things. Brian McGrory mentioned this, and so did you. The fact that President of the United States is basically saying, I'm going to fight like hell for the time being to ensure that full food assistance for some of the American people, a mere, what's the numbers?
32 million.
Yeah, that I'm going to fight that effort. This is the President of the United States is rather unbelievable. And one other thing that we've gotten a lot of questions about because we're unclear too, the Supreme Court Justice who stayed the implementation of this 100%, you got to pay 100%, as the judge in Rhode Island said, is, of all people, Ketanji Brown Jackson. And that befuddled a lot of us, including Marjorie and me. And while I can't explain it well, based upon one of our colleagues, Mira, gave us this morning, it appears that she did it because her fear was if she did not do it, a majority of the conservatives would take control of the timing of this issue, and she wanted to retain control, which doesn't explain the full thing to me, but that's the best we can do. So people are, unless they're lucky enough, in quotes, to be in a place like Massachusetts, Corby, continue to operate not knowing when full benefits, which are not that huge anyway to begin with, when they're going to be able to get back on their budgets.
The chaos and panic that this has caused can't be underestimated. And especially, my world involves a lot of food banks and food assistance organizations.
Yeah.
And they're desperately trying to step in to do this. For example, right here locally, David, whose name I am blanking on, the owner of City Feed in Jamaica Plain, posted a big sign saying, if you are SNAP eligible, we're going to give you a 30% discount on everything you buy this month. And I want to support him. I asked at the cash register, how can I contribute to help defray these costs? And they said, right, David. So I intend to do that. So many local people are trying to help with this, and food banks, but there's no way. It's in the billions every month, I think 9 billion, just to fund SNAP. Of course, that's a nice, big, fat target for Republicans who decry too much federal spending and too much welfare. But the number of people this affects, including civil servants, including veterans, including children, including heart-wrenching stories of families with disabilities who absolutely rely. They're immobile. They have to have their SNAP benefits. It's shocking.
Well, yeah, can I say one last thing that just to finish this, that a caller said in the first hour is the President of the United States is waging war on low and moderate income people using food as a weapon, which is just amazing. And I want to underline one other thing you said. We don't have enough time to list every small organization that's doing what you mentioned a second ago. A friend of mine, Tracy Chang, who owns Pagu, and is involved.
I introduced you. I take credit for Tracy.
You did?
Chang.
well, then I thank you because she's wonderful. She's involved in Project Restore Us, which is they're raising $25,000 to help with SNAP stuff. So many good people and organizations are doing small but critically important things. But then, as Healy has told us, as the mayor has told us, as others have told us, as Corby is saying, no matter what the efforts are in the private sector and state governments, you can't possibly fill the hole created by the feds. In any case, we'll stay on top of this, and as it goes ahead, we'll try to keep you updated as much as we can. We're talking to Corby Kummer.
So the one thing a lot of people have agreed with RFK Jr. on is, the bad stuff in our food, the ultra-processing, the dyes, et cetera. But apparently, according to this story from the New York Times, the playing nice between the food industry and RFK Jr. is over. So what does that mean?
Well, it's completely inevitable. And before we move on, I have to mention my Food Leaders Fellows at the Aspen Food and Society over the weekend. There's an all cohort. We now have 72, and they just pledged personally to help with SNAP, and they all have a lot of organizations that are helping, so they're mobilizing lots of activities. So yes, everybody is doing it. Now, food industry and MAHA. It was inevitable that if West Virginia and a lot of red states, starting in March, said, we're banning additives and dyes, and Texas said, if Europe says it's not recognized as safe, we are not recognizing it either. And Newsom in California said, we're going to slowly phase out ultra-processed food in school lunches. If states take these initiatives, food industry is always going to combat it, not only because they hate having to change, which they do, but because state by state it makes it impossible to keep up with the requirements. So more transparency in food labeling in one state but not in others. How do they keep up? How do they meet the regulations and requirements for all states? They don't know how to do it. I sympathize with that argument. Food manufacturers that market in all 50 states need consistency. The problem with imposing this kind of consistency, which is what the food industry is now trying to do, it's mounting lawsuits against the individual states saying, you can't do this. We can't keep track. We can't possibly keep up. But the problem is that if they turn it over to feds, there's now a whole group of industry and maybe some MAHA people calling for Americans for ingredient transparency and say, Food and Drug Administration, FDA, they're going to be our people. The problem is there's such slow, years-long inaction on the part of feds that it's essentially saying, states, you don't have any power, not so fast. You may think you can take these crusading initiatives, but we're going to stop you with preemption. And, you know, there was a local, do you remember menu and calorie labeling of menuing?
Oh, yes. Yes, we've been talking about that.
Right?
So Massachusetts, including my spouse, who was then a state health commissioner, passed calorie labeling, as New York City had done. And the Obama administration said, not so fast, we're going to do something about this. So just hold your horses, undo everything, kind of the way the Trump administration said, undo it all. This weekend, it was, I think, over a weekend. It was 10 years before it actually went into federal law or action. It was law long before it was actually action, because there was stay after stay. So that's what the industry is banking on. We're going to say the feds have to do it for consistency and to avoid chaos in the marketplace. And what they're really banking on is the feds won't do anything and it'll take years.
By the way, Marjorie opposed that labeling on menus on the radio show, was appalled by it. Her attitude was it made her uncomfortable saying calories on the menu.
Especially at fancy restaurants.
Okay,
if you're going out to a snazzy, like $30 an entree,
okay, good.
I don't want to know how many calories are in it.
They were exempted, Marjorie.
Now, let me say
were?
one other thing. No, they weren't. I thought if you
yes,
have
they were. It had to be under 30 locations. It started off as 15.
Oh, okay.
A restaurant had to have 30 locations.
Okay, so my favorite thing is a lot of these trade groups have the best names. In West Virginia, they have this trade group that is suing the state because of the state's ban on 7 artificial food dyes, and the organization is called the International Association of Color Manufacturers. I mean, how much would you love to be head of that? I mean, who do you work for? The International Association of Color Manufacturers? In any case, as Corby said, who would be surprised? So, Corby, I read this story in the New York Times, the headline of which is "The French Secret to Eating Healthy, Prepared Food and Frozen Dinners." This is after I've had roughly a pound of brie over the weekend. And it's honest to God, that is totally true. But apparently, having read this, they do have what is not a secret, but they have a better way to get from here to health than we apparently do.
Yeah,
what is
I like it. I like it.
I do too.
The main difference is they might have delicious food, but they're not going to eat a pound of it. So you're not being very French, Jim. So that is the main difference. It's about eating habits. But it's a terrific essay by Julia Belluz, a great food and health reporter who is the author of a new book with a public health and food hero named Kevin Hall, who's done the best research on ultra-processed food. She lives in France, poor thing, in Paris, because I think her husband's job took her to Europe. But she noticed the food is so much better. And why is it so much better? It's because of government policy. It's slowly preventing ultra-processed food. It is militating against fast food manufacturers. It is militating for locally grown produce in schools, which we have to say, the Biden administration, through the USDA, over $1 billion in local farms, the Farm to School program, which is a fantastic program. Trump immediately canceled it, and it so goes against everything that RFK Jr. is saying. But the French have done this, and they've also said people should be able to walk to the places they get their food, and they should be small, locally owned businesses. They shouldn't be supermarkets. So zoning goes against large supermarkets. It's this neat 15-minute rule, the 15-minute city, that you should be able to buy groceries and food within 15 minutes of where you live. I mean, that's a romantic and wonderful ideal. And also, she leads with a frozen food company called Picard.
Yeah, I love this part.
Me too.
And as it happens, my niece lives in Paris because she's half French and she's married to a Frenchman. They have 3 wonderful kids. They rely on Picard. And I go and I buy their fish soup, their bouillabaisse, their vegetables that are ready, that are already chopped. Like, you don't have to cry with a lot of onions. You can make your own sauce. It is so good. It is such high quality Picard. Many, many families rely on it. So food manufacturers, they just produce better components and better food.
Well, there's also a great, I'm sorry, you got it.
I was just going to say, the thing about chopping up the vegetables, you know, you can get chopped up vegetables at certain places, but it cuts down like by 20 minutes your food preparation for dinner if it's already, all these vegetables are already chopped, right? I mean, that's what she talks about.
And here's something the right and left can agree on. Let's never forget. Frozen vegetables and canned vegetables are just as good nutritionally, and they're often cheaper, they're easier to use, and we should advocate for them.
But wait, my understanding is aren't canned vegetables like salt laden, like big time sodium? Isn't that the problem?
That is the problem. Well done, Jim.
Thank you very much.
There are low salt availability, and so you always want to look at that canned petit pois.
Let me tell you, there's a great little piece that you didn't mention in this essay by this woman. She's talking about school lunches, and she says imagine this in America. The lunch period, actually, we're about to have Ken Oringer on, who is working to improve the food and made in kitchens there in the Boston public schools. The lunch period is also meant to instill French values of food appreciation and culture. Children are supposed to sit for 3 or 4 courses at lunch. I mean, can you imagine that dynamic? I mean, it's great.
Well, what's so depressing about U.S. school lunch periods, there's so many things, but as Ken will reiterate, it's like 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're very short.
A very good
very
point.
short.
So even if schools are funded for better food and they're bending over backwards to offer better food, the kids don't have time to eat it. So it makes a big difference. And 3 to 4 courses can go by pretty fast, and it sounds so ridiculous and unrealistic. And for most U.S. schools, it probably is. But still, it introduces this whole culture of eating and talking together.
You know who has some very good ideas about school lunches? I meant to say this to you, Marjorie. You may have heard of them, the International Association of Food, Color, whatever the hell they're called. They're key to this debate. We're talking to Corby Kummer.
So we've been talking about this sandwich place because it's in the Back Bay, and apparently along Boylston Street, apparently there's a big line to it every day. But Deborah first asked the crucial question, are these Italian sandwiches served at this place al antico vignaio, if that's how you say it?
Close.
You probably know.
It isn't. Al antico vignaio.
Yes, okay. Are they really the best in the world?
Of course they're not. It's an entire marketing and social media phenomenon.
Yeah.
But what they do is they introduce, so it started in Florence, and then I think a family of entrepreneurs has been really active in making it international. During COVID, it was a huge international social media phenomenon. So what's different about these sandwiches, which I'm going to start and end by saying Go to Salo Maria Italiana, go to the North End, go to local places that have good sandwiches. And also someplace that Deborah never mentioned is, yes, you might have to schlep to the back from the Back Bay to the North End, but Italy has very good bread and very good sandwiches. Don't forget Italy. So there's something called scacciata, and it means crushed. And it's like focaccia, except it's narrower. It's not like 1.5 inches, but it's only about 3/4 inches. The best thing in the world is made with wine grapes and fennel fronds and fennel seeds in the fall and olive oil. So it's a little sweet. They put salt on it. It's great. But the regular scacciata is kind of like less oily, less thick focaccia, and it makes a nice sandwich. Way to build a foundation. So they have that. And then there's another Florence thing, which is to take a white cheese, sort of like cream cheese, very much like cream cheese actually, and to mix things in it like artichoke paste or tomato paste or artichoke is what Deborah's fatal flaw is. She can't resist anything with artichokes. Or when I had the luck to live in Florence, during college, actually, Procacci was a Florentine sandwich shop that had little tiny oval brioche rolls filled with white truffle cream. And it was white truffle paste before the evils of horrible synthesized white truffle oil, actual white truffle paste, mixed in this creamy medium that's sort of irresistible. So the fat of the cream, the fat of the scacciata makes for a soft, very appealing sandwich. And then there's lots of meats and cheeses that Deborah went crazy for. It's the spreads and it's the bread.
Before we continue with this discussion, there are a couple of texts our colleagues shared with us that are relevant to our first conversation. Anonymous texter quotes Andy Borowitz. I missed this one. Borowitz says, Nobel Peace Prize Committee says it takes points off if a candidate denies people food. We're with that. And another anonymous texter says, Maha, make America hungry again. Thank you for that. When this, I can't pronounce this sandwich joint either, comes to town and all the excitement, and it sort of is a chain, which I guess is one of your points. Marjorie and I had a similar experience many years ago. I'm not even a donut eater. Marjorie loves certain donuts. What's the name of that Southern donut place that came to town?
Krispy Kreme?
Krispy Kreme came to town. The first one was in Malden. There was a line from Malden to Somerville. Do you remember we drove out there?
Yes.
And then we waited in this incredibly long line, and we finally got a warm donut. And in the words of Peggy Lee, who none of you have ever heard of, but you can Google her, is that all there is? It's sort of like a little disappointing.
Yeah. They had to be hot. The donuts had to be hot to really.
Well, it was hot. It was not good.
Yeah, they were like glazed donuts. They weren't that good.
Exactly.
But the cream, they talk about cream in these sandwiches, flavored with truffles, artichokes, pistachios, and porcini. Cream. This is like a creamy, sort of cheesy kind of thing. Is that what it is?
Yeah, imagine cream cheese without the preservatives.
Okay.
And it's very similar to that. It's spreadable, it's white. The French have fromage blanc. They have lots of spreads like that. The Germans have quark. And you just mix things into it, and it adds richness and, lushness to a sandwich. So that part's great.
Would you is there any place you can mention right now in our final 30 seconds that is affordable where you would urge people to stand in a line for 45 minutes to get it? I'm trying to think. I would have stood in line in New York City at the Carnegie Delicatessen for 45 minutes for a corned beef and Swiss on rye. That's about it.
Where there was a huge line yesterday? I went to buy some bread and I didn't because the line was too long. It's been there for 30 years. Clear Flour Bakery.
Yeah, well, it's
I was about to say Clear Flour. Their baguette à l'ancienne is definitely worth waiting for. And again, it has to be a place that is locally owned, makes artisan stuff, and nobody else makes it as well. And all those things fit Clear Flour's baguette.
Yeah, there must have been 40 people standing outside there yesterday.
They were just recognized by some entity last week for being great and whatever it is. Hey, Corby, it's great to see you as well.
Thank you very much, Corby.
Bye.
We've been speaking with Corby Kummer, Executive Director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, Senior Editor at The Atlantic, and Senior Lecturer at the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy. Coming up after this quick break, a conversation on diversity in clinical trials with the Beautiful Wave Foundation the foundations, I should say, Tamika Jackson and Boston Medical Center's Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett. They are next. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Ireland's new president won by a landslide, running on a far-left anti-establishment campaign.
She was kind of speaking to a lot of younger people in particular who want the country to be different in terms of progressive values.
I'm Juana Summers, how Catherine Connolly won Ireland's presidency and what it could mean for the country's political landscape. That's on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Johnson & Wales University, the College of Hospitality and Business, offers programs where service and commerce intersect, with an emphasis on career preparation. Learn more at jwu.edu. And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're not at the library tomorrow because the library is closed for Veterans Day. We're back there Wednesday. Next week, Mayor Wu joins us for an hour for Ask the Mayor. That's November 18th. The following day, November 19th, Yo-Yo Ma joins us, and he'll talk to us, and he'll play. Clinical trials are key to solving a variety of health issues, from cancer to autoimmune diseases, but they're often missing key patient populations. According to a number of studies, something like 11% of Latinos, 6% of Asians, and only 5% of Black Americans are clinical trial participants. And just to give you a feel, it's far lower than their percentage of the population. Percentage of Black Americans is almost triple that at 13%. That's a problem for getting breakthrough medications to the whole population earlier, as well as the populations typically underrepresented in medical care. And it's only made more challenging by mistrust in a system that has a history of unethical, unsafe medical experimentation. Talk about why that matters and how doctors and researchers can work together to build trust and improve representation. Joined now in Studio 3 by Tamika Jackson, founder of the Beautiful Way Foundation, CEO of Successful Strategies for Life Sciences. It's great to meet you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And on Zoom is Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at BU Medical School, and an Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. Hello to you, Katherine, too.
Wonderful seeing you both.
Before we start with both of you, Marjorie and I both wanted to say we were both fortunate enough to be at the celebration last weekend of your father, David Gergen's life. And I have to say, it was one of the most moving, powerful hours either of us have ever spent, particularly what the comments that you and your brother and his brother had. It was a beautiful day and very worthy of the great David Gergen's life and work. So thank you.
Well, I'm so grateful you were there, and I proceeded to break my foot shortly after I needed.
Oh, no!
So that is why I'm not with you. I really was excited to meet you in person, Tamika. So
what happened? What happened?
Oh, it's a long running story, but I'll be back on the trail soon.
Great. Well, in any case, thanks for having it. That was a wonderful day, and it really meant a lot to us, too. So
yeah, it was very nice. So, Tamika, tell us about this Beautiful Way Foundation. What is it?
So the Beautiful Way Foundation, we started about a couple of years ago now. It really is about reaching the underrepresented community, ensuring that they have access to innovative medications, and also to do two things: improve health and create wealth. And we believe that without the creation of wealth in these communities, there is not an opportunity to improve the health in ways that we would like to see it done. So,
how do people who do these trials, or organizations who do these trials, explain excluding adequate representation for the people who will be affected by the treatments and devices that they're talking about? It's so insane. Absolutely. It's almost indescribable.
Right.
What do they say?
I think the industry, the life sciences industry, pharmaceutical biotechnology, we are looking at it from a scientific perspective. And so when you think about how are we testing the medications, it's not about looking at a black or brown gene It's about looking at a certain genetic code makeup and making sure that that drug is safe and effective for that person or that group of people. I think we've been so buried in the minutia of making sure we get the drugs approved that we've moved away from why we are doing this.
But it's a two-way street too. Right. It's not just the industry historically excluding people who they shouldn't exclude.
Right.
It's also excluded people deciding they don't trust the industry. Right. Spend a minute on the history till we go into for example, Black Americans learned not too long ago about the Tuskegee experimentation. For younger people in our audience, tell people what that was.
So the Tuskegee experiment was a study that was conducted, I think in the 1930s. It started targeting Black men and testing medications. I guess testing to study the effect of syphilis and how it affected Black men. And the issue with that, there's nothing wrong with, wanting to understand the impact of disease, right? But the issue is, one, they weren't well informed. The people who were participating in the study wasn't well informed about what was happening. And then when their penicillin became available for the treatment of syphilis, it was not given to those folks that were participating in the study.
And they were lied to,
And
basically.
they were lied to. And so the mistrust, this is a huge issue in our community. And that is one of the reasons why. And there are some other areas or issues as well. But I think when you take a vulnerable community and then you abuse the trust in that community, it takes forever to begin to build that relationship back.
Doctor, there's a wonderful story in the Globe about you and an untrusting yet ultimately trusting 16-year-old patient of yours. Could you relate this story to people for those who don't know it?
Absolutely. So again, just so thrilled to meet you, Tamika, and excited about future collaboration. But the first I learned of your work was through this Globe article that Jessica Ma wrote, I think about a month or 6 weeks ago now, but specifically addressing trust and the importance of trust in medical trials. And like Tamika beautifully just said, the lack of diversity and representation in clinical trials currently. And the piece that she highlighted, I've had the honor, in addition to sort of many other hats I'm wearing, to be a PI or sort of lead on a clinical trial. In this case, looking at Paxlovid for children. So for your listeners, as a reminder, it's a medication that people take when they get COVID-19 to mitigate the symptoms and length of symptoms. And we were looking at it for high-risk children in our communities. And again, like Boston Medical Center, which actually 70% of our patients are people of color. And we are very much have built our legacy and our notion on how do we build trust in communities. Not always perfectly, but that's always sort of our driving ethos and what we have been doing. So when I said I would be a clinical trialist, I said we have to have, first of all, better materials that our community and our hospital can pass out in all different languages, but also with real representation of who our patients are, so they're more trusting to be part of the clinical trial. And I think, as Tamika's work so beautifully illustrates, the importance of being in community. As a primary care physician, I'm able to be in community in a different way with longitudinal relationships and addressing all facts of somebody's life, not just, the acute medical injuries that people come in for. So the story highlighted one of the participants who never would have agreed to be part of the clinical trial, but because she trusts me and, trusts sort of part of the system that I am representing, she was willing to, again, this was obviously completely informed consent, but she was willing to enter the clinical trial. It was very effective for her, the medication. She was high risk. And not only that, but then she turned around and said, I want to make a video about my experience so I can help other people.
Wow. Yes.
So we worked with Everyday Boston, which is an amazing community organization. Jim, I know you know them well.
Cara Solomon is a good friend. Yes, I do.
Good friend. And then She told her story, and we have this kind of piece as part of what we share with future participants and saying, because it's not going to be, I'm not going to get the honor of having that independent relationship with each person who may enter a clinical trial, but how do we use the strength of the community to build that trust?
We're talking to Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett from Boston Medical Center and Tamika Jackson from Beautiful Way Foundation.
Well, as we know, the president and a lot of his GOP counterparts are not big on diversity, and they have actually, in the FDA, ended these diversity studies for cancer. And I'm not a physician; I don't know anything about math or anything, but it just seems to me it makes common sense. People are different, whether it's racial differences, ethnic differences. This story is talking about whether people live in rural areas, if they're gender minorities, if they're poor. I mean, people are very, very different. Absolutely. So it just seems like it's common sense.
Yes.
But the FDA has gotten rid of this.
Well, I think for when I think about why the FDA did it, I think I want to go back to life sciences and how much we did to help people understand what it means to be underrepresented in clinical trials. I think what happened was there was this discussion about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and by hook or by crook, we got scooped up in this big overall national discussion in life sciences, and we were swept in, and we were, because of the word DEI was in the information, it was also assumed that this was about promoting equity and maybe from a job perspective and making sure people have the access to get jobs, as opposed to this is about people who have historically been denied the opportunity to confirm that the medications that they've been taking are safe and effective.
Right.
So I look at the FDA and I think the FDA is at fault because they should have been able to defend the position to say that this is needed and this is why it's needed. But I also look at life sciences because we in life sciences have not had a position where we've actually been able to communicate that outside of our industry, what we're trying to do. Because I believe if we were rational people, there are rational people in every government. And if we can defend a position, that information would go back up. But I also want to say this. It's so important that we don't worry or allow the government to tell us when we believe that Black and brown people should have the same assurance of making sure that their medications are safe and effective. We have to take a position and we have to stand to say that we're going to regulate ourselves. And so organizations like the Beautiful Way Foundation, we are building that trust in the community to have that voice of the community to feed back, to tell the industry that you have to pay attention because we're taking your medications.
But I agree with you to a point. First of all, when you say there are rational people in every administration, I would say with one exception. We won't go into that right now. Number two...
Tamika, welcome to Jim Browdy.
Number two, the problem when the feds make a decision, and I admire your position, is money often stops flowing, which matters.
That is very true.
And the third thing is, I want to get back to the trust thing we were discussing with Dr. Gergen Barnett a couple of minutes ago. There are white doctors, Gergen Barnett being one of them, who spent a career building trust with her patients because that's how she believes. And she's not an aberration. But the thing that put us totally, we've mentioned this study about 20 times through the years. In the mid-teens, there was a study of white residents.
Yeah.
I know you're definitely familiar with this. 60%, and people are going to think I'm misstating the number. I am not. 60% of the white residents who were in this survey thought Black people had thicker skin. A minority, but still a significant percentage, thought Black people were less sensitive to pain than white people. And if Michael Curry, our good buddy, who's head of the League of Community Health Centers and the Health Equity Compact that I was talking about off the air when you walked in, Tamika, has told us about 1,000 times, part of the problem is only 5% of the doctors are Black. Right. Sort of mirroring the percentage, interestingly, of Blacks in clinical trials. Yes. So it's not only that we have to find more Gergen Barnetts, we also have to ensure there's greater representation amongst the doctors themselves, right?
The doctors, the folks in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies that are sitting on the boards, who have the shared lived experiences as someone like myself. We are talking about they're in the communities, from state representatives. It is our responsibility, those of us who are Black and brown, to help others understand the importance of this issue. But also, we have experienced adversity throughout our history. So this administration does not scare me. This is something that we are used to. And the question is are we going to complain about it, or are we going to do something about it? And so I am in the mindset that we have to maneuver in any obstacle, because everything, an administration is temporary, but the mindset, I need to change. I need to make sure it's here to stay, to ensure that we get the support that we need.
It's very good you're here, because I do the complaining, you'll do the acting. So I think we are in good shape here, good balance.
And can I just add one thing?
Yes.
Because I do think, Tamika, like, totally right on. And so it's up to the life sciences. I do think, the NIH, just to put a pin on it, in July of 2025, so just a few months ago, actually did reinstate the importance of language for anybody who's doing any kind of clinical research, that they need to include women, and they need to include people who are traditionally from traditionally marginalized communities.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really important. So I don't want to just throw the baby out. Standing up and stating this. And then the second piece, absolutely, in terms of more representation in medicine, but also continuing to pull for the representation in clinical trials, because, like I said, my patient who enrolled created trust for so many more.
Yes.
Right? And so there's really good evidence to show that people who are looking at clinical trials want to look for people who look like them.
Yes.
To A, enroll, and B, trust the data that's coming out of it. So there's really good evidence around, especially blood pressure medications. If there are better trials that have more diversity and more representation, people of color are more likely to take those drugs if they know they were tested on somebody who looks like them. So that is just, good. It's good science, and it's the way that we need to be building the platform. So it can't happen from all one direction. It needs to be kind of a swelling up, as Tamika said.
We're talking to Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett. She's from Boston Medical Center, and Tamika Jackson, founder of the Beautiful Way Foundation. And by the way, you guys are having a big event.
We are.
Yeah, at Reggie Lewis Center, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So what is going to go on? This is a pretty incredible day.
Absolutely. So on next Sunday, November the 16th, the Beautiful Way is hosting an event. It is going to be to the community of Roxbury and surrounding areas. And the reason why we're doing this is because we believe that in order to build trust, you have to go into the community to meet a need of the community. And so we are offering a free one-day dental, vision, clothing, food pantry, and we're also listening to the voices within the community. We want to hear some of the issues that are happening, what's going on in with Black women, and the fact that they're head of household, single income. This is the biggest population in the city of Roxbury right now, and there's mental illness that comes with that. That stress of that one income, the stress. We want to talk about the effects on health and the effects of how to be able to have access to a career path, because some of this can be helped. And so for Black men, the recidivism rate, the incarceration rate, the mental health issues that is caused by that, there's a Black men in that area, it's a high level of suicide going on. So we want to have those conversations about not only meeting the immediate need of the free services, but let's open up the discussion to understand the barriers of these communities so that we can be able to partner with the organizations that provide the solutions.
How do people get to go to this thing?
So you have to go to TBW, beautifulway.org.
TBW.org.
I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
Beautifulway.org is the website. And you go into events and you can click on the link to register to attend. Now, all of your listeners may not be in need of those services, but you can still support the event. We are having a Share the Warmth coat drive and food drive where you can purchase an item. You can also come out and volunteer.
Yeah, it sounds like a great event. Breast exams too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is a great service for people.
Wait, can I say one thing?
Yes.
So, Tamika, first of all, I'm really excited. I'm hoping to crutch my way over there and get to meet you. But I will say, actually, that same day, right across the street at Roxbury Community College, I'm part of a research group working on building medical trust and bringing together community members and medical providers. So we will be there sharing the love across the street in the afternoon. And then BMC, just to put a plug in for your listeners, is having something called Equity and its Progress Under Pressure, and it's a 2-day meeting at the Renaissance Boston Seaport on 11/19 and 11/20, where we're going to be talking about a lot of these same issues, really thinking about a research symposium, and then we're going to have Fauci coming on the 20th. And,
Oh, great.
Lots of pushing on health equity. So,
Doctor, I'm always looking for something good that that President Trump is doing. It's not easy, but I think it was a good thing he did to lower the price of the drugs people take if they have weight issues. That seems like is that going to happen? Is that
so hot off the press? Yeah, just to I'll put in a really quick plug on that. So Trump late last week talked about an agreement that he had made with Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. So they're the ones that make Zepbound and Wegovy to try to reduce the prices for those medications, especially for people on Medicare. So this is a new thing that obviously we've talked a lot about GLP-1s on this show. I think they have a lot of promise. And if we can be working to reduce prices and increase price transparency, all the better. I will just say Massachusetts is going to continue to be a patchwork of coverage for GLP-1s because every insurance company is doing it differently. So this is an evolving landscape, but this is definitely good news, especially for people who want to stay on their GLP-1s and won't be able to afford out of pocket.
Can I go back to one last topic for the last 2 minutes, which to me is the most important topic in the discussion we had, trust.
Yes.
How does a doctor, no matter how empathetic and caring they are, build trust with a patient when you have 1.5 minutes to spend with a patient? I'm serious about this. I mean, I've had a lot of great doctors who are ready to have a stroke over how many patients they have to see in a finite period of time. And when you're rushing, when one is rushing through an experience with a patient, isn't the message one is sending them that I don't really care about you as much as I say? Isn't that a huge obstacle?
Well, I'm going to answer briefly, and then I would love to hear Tamika's perspectives as well. But I will say there's a couple very critical things. One is recognizing that the patient is always the expert of their own body. So giving the control back to the patient, recognizing that as a provider, you are in the passenger seat there to steer and direct as needed. Second, knowing your history, knowing things like Tuskegee study, knowing things about infertility and, Latinas over the years, knowing that patients are facing everyday discrimination and struggles today, and trust is not in the rear view mirror, mistrust is not in the rear view mirror, and addressing it. So knowing that you do not walk in there having earned someone's trust, or deserving someone's trust, you have to earn it. And then doing what you say you're going to do, following up, and then having, these meetings and these conversations over time. It's really hard to build trust if you're an emergency physician. It's much easier if you're a primary care physician, but you have to do the work.
How about it, Tamika?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I am a patient of doctors, right? And so for me, what's important to me is if you know me. If you come to me and you form a connection with me, hi, Tamika, how are you doing? How are your kids? To build trust means you care about me. Right. And so if I'm in your office and I've come and I see you smile and I see you want to actually, the 1.5 minute, I would believe that would be the most important is to listen and take in, so that small little voice that you hear, that you know, not the voice that's telling you have 50 million patients that are on your list for the day. I'm talking about that small little voice as that person is talking. Listen to that voice and be able to connect more to that person, because I don't trust you if you're not listening to me.
It's perfect. Tell us one more time before you go. How do people go on Sunday? What's the website?
Beautifulway.org.
Beautifulway.org.
Under events, yes.
Great.
I like the title.
Good luck.
It's very uplifting.
It is.
Okay. Thank you very much, both of you. I hope you feel better, Doctor. And thank you very much. We've been speaking with Tamika Jackson, founder of the Beautiful Way Foundation, CEO of Successful Strategies for Life Scientists, and Dr. Katherine Gergen Barnett, who's broken her ankle, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at Boston University Medical School, and Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. Coming up after this quick break, just enough time for our beloved Two More Things segment. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
When news impacts your community,
the effects of the government shutdown are still being felt.
Trust GBH News for the full picture.
People are worried about paying their rent, paying their student loans, and eating.
Always here with ongoing coverage of the news that matters to you.
Do they choose to skip some of that food, or do they pay their heating bill or their medical bills?
Follow the story at GBH 89.7, online at gbhnews.org.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, celebrating Boston's own Alan Roan-Cright, an artist, storyteller, and activist, in concurrent exhibitions with the Boston Athenaeum. On view through January 19th. More at gardnermuseum.org. And UMass Lowell, ranked #1 best value public university in Massachusetts by the Wall Street Journal and U.S. News and World Report. Learn more at uml.edu/rankings.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browder, streaming youtube.com/GBH. Not at the library tomorrow because it's closed for Veterans Day. It's time for Two More Things. Take it away, Marjorie.
Yeah. First of all, the Trump administration has ordered visa officers to deny immigration paper, basically to deny immigrants to people who are overweight. If you
deny?
Yeah, they can't come in. They can't come in if they're overweight. They may have some other health issues too, but obesity is a big thing. If you're overweight, you can't come in. It's all over for you.
So does that mean if Trump left the country, he couldn't get back in either?
That would be correct,
okay.
Yeah.
I guess so. Thank you.
And then over the weekend, the president seemed to nod off at a few events at the Oval Office, and people took a bunch of his pictures of him seeming to be sleeping in the Oval Office. And the last thing of all, he's got this two-headed coin now that usually...
potpourri.
Yeah, well, presidents usually don't appear on coins. There was one, I guess, with Grover Cleveland and Calvin Coolidge a million years ago, but they were only on one side. The proposals for this Trump coin, he's going to be on both sides.
Well, if it flips
Heads
over, you'll
or
know
tails, there's Donald Trump.
It's beautiful.
Looking at you.
Okay, speaking of Donald Trump, here is what I was going to do for my Two More Things.
Uh-huh.
That is rather unbelievable. So Trump yesterday was the first sitting president since Jimmy Carter in '78 to attend a regular season NFL game. It was with the Washington Commanders. By the way, he wants the new stadium they're going to have built named after him, which is really nice. Can we hear that one more time, his reception at the game? Well, I would say there was not a smattering of boos. There were quite a few. That was his reception. Now, I was going to talk about that, but I decided... in an act of something, this is much more important. Former federal judge Mark Wolf resigned a couple of days ago. Ronald Reagan appointed him, by the way, as a federal judge when he was 38 years old. He wrote a piece in The Atlantic saying why he resigned. He wrote, let me read you a few parts. You should read the whole thing. It's entitled, Why I'm Leaving the Federal Bench. He says, President Donald Trump is using the law for partisan purposes, targeting his adversaries while sparing his friends and donors from investigation, prosecution, and possible punishment. The White House assault on the rule of law is so deeply disturbing to me that I feel compelled to speak out. Silence for me is now intolerable. He goes on to say, as I watched in dismay and disgust from my position on the bench, I came to feel deeply uncomfortable operating under the necessary ethical rules that muzzle judges' public statements and restrict their activities. Day after day, I observed in silence as Trump, his aides, and his allies dismantled so much of what I dedicated my life to. The reason I read that, beyond the fact that it's quite powerful.
Good for him.
Exactly. There's so many people who complain or stew in silence. But a judge like this who's been on the bench for decades, again, appointed by Ronald Reagan, not some left-wing radical, decides it's important enough to resign his position so that he has a forum to talk about the threats to democracy. So good for Mark Wolf. Congratulations on an incredible career. And I would really urge you one more time to go to The Atlantic, theatlantic.com, and read Why I Am Leaving the Federal Bench by Mark L. Wolf. It's pretty great.
Okay, coming up after the 1 o'clock news, James Beard award-winning chef Ken Oringer on his latest pasta company that is so much more centered around good food and a very good mission, dealing with people with autism on the autism spectrum. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be right back.
Support GBH and unlock the best of NPR and PBS, all bundled in one. With the GBH Super Bundle, you'll get NPR Plus and GBH Passport. So give a little, get a lot in return. Learn more at gbh.org/superbundle.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And MIT Federal Credit Union. With a full range of financial services, their financial advisors are committed to helping members' money work for them. Membership's open to the public. More at mitfcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA. And Burton's Grill and Bar, serving weekend brunch with dishes like cast iron French toast, chicken and waffles, and short rib hash. A gluten-free menu is available, with 8 locations in Greater Boston. burtonsgrill.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, ahead on Hour 3 of BPR. Last year, Ken Oringer, the James Beard winning chef behind restaurants like Little Donkey and Uni, launched a brand new pasta venture that's centered around good food and employing people with autism. It's called Chitarra Pastaria, and Ken will join us with food alongside team members Miles Mazzotta and Julia Agostino.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then, ever since we started the live stream of our show on YouTube, Jim and I have been getting flack for not having, well, let's say, the tidiest of radio spaces. Well, here's some hope. The Washington Post has a litany of number-based brain hacks to trick yourself into decluttering. We'll open the phone and text lines when it's time to clean up, and Jamie refuses to do it for you. Do you have your own trick to getting it done? Call or text in the third hour, BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The Trump administration is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to block a lower court ruling requiring full SNAP benefits be paid for November. NPR's Tovia Smith reports a hearing is set for this afternoon.
The Trump administration's bid for help from the Supreme Court comes after a federal appeals court last night refused a similar request. At issue is an order from a federal judge in Rhode Island requiring payment of full SNAP benefits instead of the 65% the administration wants to pay. Meantime, a group of states who already paid some full benefits got a federal judge in Boston to temporarily stop the Trump administration from penalizing them. Administration officials say those states may have to pay the government back for any payments over 65%, and they could lose some federal funding. The states insist they were in compliance with administrative guidance and court orders when making those payments. Tovia Smith, NPR News, Boston.
Hamas has handed over the body of an Israeli soldier that had been held in Gaza since 2014. NPR's Lauren Frere reports the move may indicate progress toward Phase 2 of a U.S.-brokered ceasefire between Israel and the militant group.
Phase 1 was halting violence, exchanging bodies, and boosting humanitarian aid to Gaza. Phase 2 is disarming Hamas, deploying international troops, and governing post-war. Hamas's handover of the remains of Hadar Goldin, an Israeli soldier killed in a previous Gaza war, could impact Phase 2 negotiations over some 200 Hamas fighters. They're believed to be holed up in Rafah in southern Gaza. Israel's been demanding they surrender or be killed. The U.S. floated the idea of freeing them if they agree to disarm and in exchange for Goldin's body. As for an international security force, Turkey has been involved in talks, but an Israeli government spokesperson says there will be no Turkish boots on the ground. Lauren Frere, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
The annual United Nations climate meeting, also known as COP30, has officially kicked off in Brazil. NPR's Rebecca Hersher reports one goal of the meeting is to accelerate progress on climate change.
In recent years, wind and solar power has expanded dramatically. It's now the cheapest source of electricity in most of the world, and that's helping to slow the rate of global warming. But it's not enough to avoid catastrophic amounts of warming in the coming decades, says United Nations climate chief Simon Steele.
We must move much, much faster on both reductions of emissions and strengthening resilience.
Delegates from more than 190 nations are participating in this year's meeting. The United States is not among them. Rebecca Hersher, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The number of delays and cancellations at Logan Airport is growing today. That's after the FAA forced 40 major airports to reduce the number of flights amid the government shutdown. We have more from GBH's Jeremy Siegel. We'll get back to that audio in the next newscast. A Boston federal judge is resigning in protest of the Trump administration, as we just heard from Jim Braude. As GBH's Marilyn Scherer reports, Judge Mark Wolf had sat on the bench for more than 40 years.
On Sunday, Judge Wolf published a piece in The Atlantic titled, "Why I Am Resigning." The essay calls President Trump an existential threat to American democracy and accuses him of using the law to target his opponents while sparing friends and donors. In a statement, the Boston Federal Court's Chief Judge, Denise Casper, said Judge Wolf has served with distinction and a steadfast commitment to the rule of law. The 78-year-old Wolf had senior status on the court. The designation means Trump cannot appoint a new judge to replace him. Marilyn Scherer, GBH News.
In sports, Monday Night Football, it's the Eagles at the Packers tonight, and the forecast showers on and off today, high mid-50s. We're seeing showers right now. Clearing sky overnight tonight, low 31, mostly cloudy, 40 degrees tomorrow, cloudy mid-40s on Wednesday. Winter is coming. 54 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with its Name Your Price tool, a way to see coverage options based on a driver's budget. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're not going to be at the Boston Public Library tomorrow because it's closed for Veterans Day, but we are going to be live here in Brighton. We'll be back at the library on Wednesday. And one more time, Mayor Wu is going to be with us November 18th, and on November 19th, Yo-Yo Ma is going to perform for free. No tickets needed at the Boston Public Library.
That is correct.
Normally you have to pay a fortune to go see him at the BSO.
He does a lot of benefit things. He's a pretty wonderful.
He's a wonderful guy.
Look at this.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, thank you.
Oh wow.
In any case, Chitarra Pastaria is the latest project from James Beard award-winning chef Ken Oringer, who's somewhere here. We have no idea where he is. You know him from restaurants.
Here he is.
Oh, there he is.
Here he is.
Oh, he's bringing food, so it's okay. He's a minute late. Nice to see you, Ken. How are you? As I was saying, you know him from restaurants like Toro, Uni, little donkey. What is Faccia called these days? Faccia, whatever the hell it is. It's the name change, whatever. This new venture is a little different. They sell prepackaged pasta and pasta meal kits made, as the website puts it elegantly, with love and autism. Now, it's not your everyday pasta making operation. It's also a pathway for people on the spectrum to learn the ins and outs of operating a business, making restaurant quality pasta that everyone can enjoy. And yes, that includes Marjorie and me. Again, they brought in beautiful
I
food,
know.
which
It's
we'll tell you about
gorgeous
in a
over
minute.
there.
Here with us in Studio 3 is Ken Oringer. Ken, nice to see you.
So nice to see you guys, as always.
And as always for us too. And two new faces to BPR, Miles Mazzotta, who said to me before, I didn't think he remembered me. I knew Miles when he was a little boy. His father and I worked together. I know his mother. And Miles said to me when he walked in, he said, I hope you didn't hold me when I was a little kid. I might have. I'm not really 100% sure. And Ezra Kukas, is that how I pronounce your last name?
Yes, it
Great.
is.
We're
Thank
thrilled to have you
you.
both. And check out, we'll tell you a lot about it. It's Chitarra Pastaria, Pastaria.com. It's great to see all three of you. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah. So elaborate on what Jim just said. Exactly what is this Chitarra Pastaria?
Well, you guys, I mean, these guys are the pasta makers and the brilliant minds behind the operation. So you guys go.
Okay, well, there you go. Who wants to start?
Oh, I guess I will.
Take it,
Go
Ezra.
ahead. Chitarra Pastaria is a Boston-based local pasta company that employs people on the spectrum and also gives them the opportunity to not only make the product but also have a huge say in what the business does and how we operate as a local business.
How'd you get involved before we got Miles involved in this conversation? How'd you get involved in the operation?
So I got involved pretty soon after I got my autism diagnosis. I, strangely enough, wasn't diagnosed until I was 18, even though the signs were all there. And it was through this group called Aspire that had a job program to help people on the spectrum find jobs. And Chitarra Pastaria was this cool startup that was just getting out there and looking for new employees. And I was just why not? I love working with my hands, and they seem like really good people.
Ezra, before we move on, how did it happen that you were diagnosed at 18?
So, for several years... Sorry.
It's okay. That's all right.
For several years, I was in the foster care system, and with their limited resources, I wasn't I was underdiagnosed. I also have ADHD, and after they got the diagnosis for that, they're it's fine. There's nothing else surely there's nothing else there we need to figure out. And
happens a lot to women too.
Yeah.
Particularly, this is like a kind of well documented thing that women are severely underdiagnosed.
Really?
Yeah. And
with autism or in general?
Listen, I can tell you with autism, right,
Yeah.
for certain. In general, I can speculate.
Yeah. It's very I don't want to say uncommon, but it's hard for especially a woman of color to get an autism diagnosis, because 9 times out of 10 we are very good at masking it, or the community we grew up in had forced us to mask it.
Okay.
So it was mainly a poor mixture of that didn't allow me to get diagnosed at 18 until years after I got home from college. I didn't do so great, and my parents were just why is that? So we got the appointment, and the doctor who did this, he verbatim was in all my 30 years of assessing people, this is profound, not profound, but he was surprised that I hadn't been diagnosed sooner.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we obviously don't need Ken Oringer. So let's talk to the kid I may or may not have held as a child. How'd you get involved in this, Miles?
Same way, right? So Aspire, they're really great. I did an internship previously through Aspire. Basically, they've got people who will connect. They work with us, right? They find where our interests are at, what we're good at. And then they connect us with businesses, typically ones that are looking for people with autism, or people just in general who are looking for workers. And this guy, Jack Lewis, shout out to him, said, hey, so do you want to make pasta? I'm I don't know how to cook. And
I can try, but
yeah,
won't
right.
last.
And he's just take this interview, right? And then one of the other founders, he interviewed me, and kind of through that interview, as much as he was making sure that I was the right fit for it, I was kind of subliminally trying to figure out are you the right fit for me?
And are they?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Why?
They treat me like an adult. I mean, listen, it basically because here's the thing, and a lot of my experience with kind of interacting with people who know you have autism in a kind of elevated power dynamic, it tends to be that's through a school system. And so, of course, you're going to be talked to like a kid, but you can tell that they're talking to you a little bit differently. You're not just a kid, right? Maybe you feel like you're like a couple of grades below. Maybe it's something else, right? But there is this different way in which they talk to you. And this guy, he was asking me questions, right? Things like, we don't know what this business is. What do you think? Actually, if you look at it, so we got you some boxes, and those were directly inspired by unboxing experiences that I have had. So I play some video games, and part of like video game culture is like your peripherals and what you use, and one of those is a keyboard. I have this very nice keyboard, and it came in this wonderful box, and in that box there's a postcard, and in that postcard, sorry that I'm just like going off and off
No.
But basically, there in that postcard they say, hey, if you have a favor for us or that we can do for you, let us know. Send this postcard to us. We'll try to make it happen. And that made a profound impact on me.
Wow.
And so I was able to tell that to Chitarra, and I said, hey, I want this to be where we take. So when we're doing e-commerce, when we're shipping these out, we want that to be the experience right there. Made with love, autism.
Let's get a shot. Hold that up again, Ken Oringer, just for 1 second, so we can get a shot of the wrong direction.
They got hella cameras.
Like a little more.
I think the
towards
camera's over there. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, there. Oh, there we go. We'll figure this out. Perfect. Made with love and autism. So, Ken Oringer, I'm going to take a bite. What is this that I'm about to eat, by the way, while you're talking?
All right. So, what shape of pasta is that, guys? Because that's our newest creation.
What shape of pasta?
Oh, that's cresta de gallo. It's a really funny pasta shape. It kind of looks like the top of a rooster's comb. If you take
it actually does. It looks exactly like
you
that.
mentioned Stegosaurus. I like that one a lot better.
I used to call it Stega de Gallo because it looked like a Stegosaurus to me, like a funny little shape. So it's actually my favorite shape to make at work.
But why pasta? You know, why was that?
Can we step back for a second?
Yeah.
Why'd you do this?
Yeah.
Well, again, this is with a friend of mine, Dan Tater, who is always interested in helping out the community, and he's a full-on entrepreneur, as a lot of people are. And a friend of his, David, we basically sat down and discussed what can we do. We want to create a startup, and we want to have a neurodiverse workforce, but we want to do something a little bit different. And what do I know? Nothing more than cooking. I don't know how to do anything else. So it was pretty much. So it was pretty much. I was thinking, and I was like, I think a pasta company could be something really, really worth looking into. And we had a lot of discussions, and then we finally decided, you know what? Why not? And then Little Donkey basically, sits empty in the mornings, and I was like, we have these giant communal tables, and both you guys have been a Little Donkey.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we don't use them in the mornings, and we could set up, like an Italian grandma's long wooden cutting boards, and just have these guys making pasta here.
Marjorie, taste this while we're talking. So is this good deed or good business or both?
We're business people. I mean, we opened this up as a business, and we're for-profit. We want to pay these guys their worth, and we want to be a successful business. And they're making all the calls in terms of the marketing and the the websites and the merch and which shapes of pasta we're using and working with our social media team and working with everybody in terms of how to just get the word out of a startup.
What's Marjorie eating?
So that right there is
the sauce is great.
Trottole with a cheesy vodka sauce.
And these pastas are adorable.
I know, they're pretty great.
And
what do you call these?
Trottole.
Trottole.
Yeah, they're really cute.
Yeah.
Little curly cues.
Like little roses.
Yeah,
I like
little
to think
roses.
Them
That's right.
Roses.
So that is part of, we're doing collaborations now with chefs from all over the community, from Boston to New York to wherever. And the trottole with the cheesy vodka sauce is one that we have a big Instagram influencer called These Carbs Don't Count. And this is part of a collaborative box that we're going to put together for the holidays. So these boxes are definitely the way to go for corporate gifting or for family or friends or whatever.
And this is a collaborative box full with all these different kinds of pasta.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is a great gift.
Hey, so, and where? Well, let's do with you, and then we'll move back to these guys. Where can people? I know people can get this stuff online. Are you in stores yet or no?
Not yet.
Not yet. We've been fortunate enough to be so busy. I mean, these guys are like elves working, like around the clock. Just business has been really, really strong. So we want to be in stores, and we will be in stores. It's just a matter of when we can kind of catch up after the holidays. But it's definitely the next step for us.
What's this done for you, Miles? How long you worked at this place?
So this is like a year and a half at this point, right?
And how about you, Ezra? How long for you?
A solid year.
Yeah.
Okay, starting with you. What's this working at this place done for you?
Oh man, it's been a lot of things. I mean, for like one thing, listen, autism, routines, hand in hand, baby, love it. Another thing is also, so I did a little bit of high school musical tech work. Basically, it's like you're doing like woodworking, stuff like that. And so I enjoy like finding efficiencies, working with my hands, and moving around. Right. I got that ADHD too, baby. I need to be able to. I cannot just be sitting still. And then another thing is also I have like not to be like, I have so many different interests, but I do. And I don't, although I do enjoy specializing in certain tasks, I don't think I could do just one thing. And what this has been really great is because it's a business. One thing is when we had corporate orders last year, we had a huge Excel file of customers that we needed to send out to with $0 orders, and we use Shopify for a back end, and that doesn't quite they're not used to you sending out like a $0 order. And so what I did was I had been doing some computer programming work, and I was thinking to myself, I could probably build an app that does this, because normally they have like extension apps, but they charge you like per customer. And I'm like, this is okay. So we could either spend like $200 on this, or you could pay me like $20 to do this in like an hour, right? And so that's exactly what I did, right? And so being able to make that executive decision, pitch that to my bosses and say, hey, look at what I can do for you, right? And then for them to say, give me that go ahead in order to find that. I find that to be just, it's stimulating, it's fulfilling, and it's fantastic. I love it.
What do you think?
What do you gotten out of this?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's it been like for you to be able to work at this place? What has it meant to you?
Oh, it's I've been absolutely fantastic. Coming out of college, I didn't do as so great as I thought I would in my first year. And after getting the diagnosis, it was kind of just like, well, what do I do now? And after I got the job, it's given me a lot of direction and insight and like how the adult world works and what requires a business to keep going and keep running. And it puts a lot of emphasis and importance on taking care of your employees first before your customers, because that's what makes the company move forward and push into newer heights.
Okay, I want to know, just because this pasta is really good and it's very different, what are the keys to making a great pasta?
Good ingredients.
Yeah, just keeping your eye on it. Just keeping your eye on it.
What do you mean keeping your eye on it?
So,
by the way, Marjorie's asking this question because she admits, are you the worst cook ever? Is that?
I'm a pretty bad cook.
Okay, she admits that. It's not a criticism.
Hand in hand, baby. Hand in hand.
I'm very bad. But you can tell
But go ahead, Ezra.
the pasta tastes like so different when it's fresh like this.
Yeah. So the thing about pasta that we unknowingly learned is that a lot of it has to do with like your ingredients, what kind of temperature they cook at and what kind of flour you use in these ingredients, because like it all works in like a great chemistry that's what creates a meal. Most of what cooking is basically science with like chemistry and biology and things like that.
True.
What we discovered, well, on this journey of making pasta is that humidity has a lot to do with like how nice your pasta comes out at the end of the day. So like right now it's raining, so
Just good day to make pasta.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you get to put less like wet ingredients in your pasta
because it's in the air.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
She's gotten really good at it, by the way. She's totally underselling herself. If I may, like, interject, she, like, you have no idea.
You have
like,
interjected, so go ahead.
Yeah. My sincere apologies, everyone. But dude, she is so good at this, right? Like, I could say, like, oh yeah, I do a bunch of other stuff. She is like specialized at that point. She's the main like extruder. Chances are, right, if you're getting it, like any pasta from this nowadays, it might be packaged by one of us, right? Like we all got like our fingers in that pie, so to speak, or fingers on the pie. Anyway.
I want you to know, this is coming from a guy, I read his quote in the promotional material. I love making really long rigatoni. Was that you?
Yes, that only happens at the end. That only happens basically after like we can't make enough to go on like the dryer. So we have to dry it out. That way it's shelf stable and then we can send it out to people. We eventually like instead of like cutting the rigatoni at normal, I just like let it go and I just put it in my mouth and it's like it's real nasty. You shouldn't look at it. But.
You know, Ken, this is not an area where I have great expertise, but I've read about other companies who've gone out of their way to hire some people with autism, but your whole staff, all your workers have autism, and that's aberrational, meaning that's not being done in many places. So, and obviously it's worked for you. You've been pretty happy in this discussion here. So, are people reaching out to you, other small businesses, and saying, "Can we want to experiment with this? How's it going?"
Oh, 100%. I mean, people in many different industries have been reaching out, and we love it because, again, it's just such an incredible group of people, and they can offer so much. And we just want to spread the word out there also that, we would be nothing, obviously, without our team. And, these guys are making pasta and better than any Italian grandma probably ever could. And
don't say that.
And it's really
Put her on the spot.
And everyone just feels good when we go to work and when we go home every day that we're doing our best and making a difference in people's lives.
You know, Miles, I love what you said before when you talked about when you were in that interview and you were saying how they asked you your opinion, how you thought things should go. We had a guy on Zoom a couple of weeks ago after RFK Jr. was talking about how it was an individual tragedy, families with autism, and he wrote a piece in USA Today, which is what has got him in here, in which he said Trump and RFK Jr. must stop treating us like a plague to be eradicated.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say to the RFK Jr.'s and the Trumps who do appear to have that kind of an attitude? What do you say?
Okay. So what was really funny to me is that my main experience with autism is frequently, like, literally, it makes it harder for me to communicate. Where you know how they mentioned that, like, people with autism, like, were very literal, right? So that. And also because I've done a lot with communications, right? I briefly majored in broadcast journalism. And my dad worked for you, right? So
no, he worked with me. He didn't work for me. He worked with you. He was great.
He's a great guy. And so I've learned.
You look like him too, by the way.
I know, right?
It's weird. Topic.
And what's crazy is my sister even more. But yeah, no. What's been really, really something I've focused on a lot has been communication and making sure that I can be heard properly. And it's so funny to me that this totally neurotypical guy, RFK, he comes in and he says, and he talks about it as if we're like a plague to be around, and then he immediately has to walk it back. He's like, no, I just mean the people who are like severely autistic, which is so fun because this is the thing, is autism is a spectrum, and it's not just a spectrum in the same way that color is a spectrum, where it's one end of one frequency, right? It's not linear, right? This thing, it's really just this all-encompassing, very novel disability, and so it's very complex, it's very nuanced, and so to draw a line in the sand and say this is the one who is the plague, this is the one who isn't. There's more I could say, but I do find that it's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous to then say these are the people you can be around and these are the people that you can't, that need to be segregated, that need to be separate.
Ezra, do you want to say something about this?
It's also really dangerous to put information out there that has for sure been debunked numerous amounts of times and then like label it as the singular cause for a neurodevelopmental disorder or like a disability. Like that is for sure the cause. And the truth is that we don't really know. You know, it could be one thing, it could be another. I have my youngest brother, he's profoundly autistic, and it feels like they're trying to say that they're lesser than because of the way that they were born. Because that's the plain fact about it. This is the way we were born. This is how our brains developed in the womb. This is the way we were born. And nothing is going to change that. It's not like boo-hoo, boo you. It's just what makes us different. And I'm just tired of the rhetoric that because we are different, we cannot get along or we cannot communicate with one another. And that's just not the case. It's really harmful and dangerous to put that information out there.
And then also the talking out of the both sides of your mouth, right? When people challenge you and say, actually, that's not how this is. And to say, oh, we only mean these people, right?
Yeah.
Wait, that's not what they mean. You know that's not what they mean.
It's not what they mean.
They're just trying to they're trying to say it for now, and then later on it is going to be me eventually, right? It's going to be me. It's going to be you. It's going to be all of us.
We're talking about Chitarra Pastaria. We're going to spell it for you in a minute. Tell us everything that's available if people want to buy this wonderful stuff. Where do they go, and what can they get?
All right, they go to our website, which what's our website, guys?
ChitarraPastaria.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, everything is right there, from the merch to our boxes to our individual pastas to what have you. And
the pasta really is beautiful.
It
really is
it's really beautiful. We should spell Chitarra too, because
we're going to do that
so people will know. It's Chitarra, Chitarra Pastaria.
And then Pastaria with an A, Pastaria.
Yep. Yeah.
You're happy doing this, I can tell, aren't you?
Oh man, it is.
He's a fun guy to work with.
Is he? I didn't know if I should ask that question. Is he a fun guy to work with?
Yeah, he's a fun guy to work with. I love working with my bosses and my coworkers.
Miles isn't saying anything. What does that mean?
Your silence speaks volumes.
Is he a fun guy to work with?
Oh my God, he's great. No, it's also really great because we get in the zone. Right, that's like another thing is we get very hyper focused, and he just comes in and he gives us a fist bump and he says, "Hey, what's up?" And it's really great to have somebody who also respects you in the way of, I'm going to let you work. Right, I'm not going to force you to interact to interact with me. It's like you must say hi to me. You must be right. No, he's super chill, and that's another thing that's really important.
Okay, Miles, one of our listeners wants to know what your dad thought about working with Jim.
Oh man, be
honest, Miles.
I will be honest. Like, all he mentioned is that you roasted him for liking soccer.
On the
day I was born, by the way, on the day I was born, this man used me as a way to roast my father, which I think is great. That was really you're a real one for that. I appreciate you here.
I actually love the guy, but he does like soccer.
Well, a lot of people like soccer, Jim.
It was really funny is that he would take me to games, right? He would take me to games, and I've watched as Gillette Stadium has like grown and grown, more people coming to New England Revolution games.
That's right.
But the funniest part is that it's the way that they because they're not full yet, right? But I didn't realize that that there was like a row behind us, and so one day it just felt like the whole place exploded. And I was like, how did this get? And this was like even before Messi came, right? And so it was like, how did this all happen? No, it turned out that it had been growing and growing behind, like literally behind my back this entire time. And I just hadn't noticed. I was like, oh. People really like this game.
It's great to meet you, too.
Thank you.
By the way, we're really excited about the business and the work. It's fabulous, and it's great what you and your colleagues are doing, Ken. Thanks for
and I've never
sharing
seen
the story with us.
Pasta that looks as beautiful as this.
Plus, it tastes great, too.
It tastes great,
really
too, but
good.
it's just so intricate. It's beautifully done.
Yeah,
beautifully
my favorite part is that each morning after we come in, we take up our drying pasta from downstairs where our drying machine is, and I just love seeing the pasta come out, and it's all like perfect and nice, and like it makes me feel proud because I'm just like, I was able to do this, you know.
Can we come over some morning and see this?
Little roses of pasta.
We'd love to. I live really nearby too.
Hell yeah.
Hey, it's great to see you
very
guys.
much for coming in.
Congratulations on your work.
Sorry, everybody.
We've been speaking with Ken Oringer, the James Beard Award-winning chef behind the restaurants like Toro, Uni, Faccia Bruta.
No, it's not called that anymore.
No.
Faccia.
Thank you. Am I going to goof this one up?
No.
For Vienne Bakery, is that right too?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
I forgot that's also great.
And Chitarra Pastaria. Thank you to Miles Mazzotta and Ezra Kukis.
Yes.
For coming in and telling us all about making pasta. To order a batch or get more info, go to ChitarraPastaria.com. I'm going to spell it for you again. CHITARRA. Pastaria, PASTARIA.com.
I'm going to tweet that out today as soon as
Jim's
the show's over, too. So go to @JimBrowdy, and if you forget the website,
Coming up after this quick break, since our studio
looks
looks like a doomsday prepper's bunker. It's true. It's a mess in here. We'll open the phone and text lines to get your decluttering tips at 877-301-8970. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Make sure you say hi to your parents.
Ireland's new president won by a landslide, running on a far-left anti-establishment campaign.
She was kind of speaking to a lot of younger people in particular who want the country to be different in terms of progressive values.
I'm Juana Summers, how Catherine Connolly won Ireland's presidency and what it could mean for the country's political landscape. That's on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Revision Energy, a solar company and a Mitsubishi Electric heating and air conditioning contractor, offering customers the option to combine a solar array with a heat pump system to manage their heating and cooling at home. RevisionEnergy.com. And the Museum of Science, with their Fun for All Ages seasonal exhibit All Aboard, Trains at Science Park, returns November 22nd, featuring trains, interactives, and magic. More at mos.org/engine.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Not at the library tomorrow because, as we said to you, the library is closed for Veterans Day. We are there next week. We're there the following day, Wednesday and Friday. And next week, Mayor Wu joins us on the 18th. Yo-Yo Ma joins us on the 19th. The headlines might be chaotic, but one way to take control of your life, Marjorie, is by tidying up the spaces around you. We know our studio is an embarrassment, so you don't even have to tell us. It's Marjorie's fault. Now, according to a story in the Washington Post, apparently there's more than one way to clean up than just asking Marie Kondo questions. Does this spark joy? Enter, I'm going to explain all these to you, or Marjorie will. Enter the 80-20 rule, the 12-12-12 challenge, the 4-box method, all techniques espoused by professional organizers to help make cleaning more approachable. The contention in this Washington Post story is that numbers make you feel orderly and get you in the mood. We don't know, have you adopted any of these decluttering principles in your life, or to use my technique of piling everything I own into the corner of the studio? Thank you for that, friends. It's not pretty, but I know where everything is. In any case, have you successfully adopted any of these numerical leads to help you declutter, or are you a helpless character? Share your stories with us at 877-301-8970. Let me explain a couple of these, if I may, Marjorie. The 90-90 rule. You No, let's skip that one. The 2010 rule, 20 declutter. You declutter for 20 minutes, you take a 10-minute rest, and you go back and declutter for 20 minutes. I like that. This 12-12-12 rule. One pile is to be tossed or recycled, one is to donate, one is to be put back.
Yeah.
The 1-in-1 rule.
Those never
Anything
work.
new you bring into
Those
your
don't
house,
work.
you get rid of one thing in your house. So what do you think of those things?
Well, I think that
the camera's moving around the studio, embarrassing both of us, I should say.
I know.
Can I just say almost
You know
every,
what Carla
excuse me,
said?
almost every,
Watching from Seattle here, our beloved Jim and Marjorie are the definition of clutter as we witness on the daily YouTube.
can I tell you, keep that camera right there. Other than this plate of pasta, every single piece of crap in this room is Marjorie's, without one exception.
No one believes that, Jim.
Okay, so we want to know where you are. If you use any of these methods, do you have a method? Do you use the old Marie Kondo, as I said? Does this thing spark joy?
Yeah.
If it does not, get rid of it. And the 90-90 rule, which I skipped over. Look at something. Have I used it in the past 90 days? Am I likely
That's
to use
similar
it
to
in the
Marie
next
Kondo.
90 days?
Yep.
And if I'm not, you know what you do? You get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, these things, and I hate to poo-poo the whole thing, but
Don't poo-poo it.
This reminds me of people who say, well, if you just put your glasses and your keys and your phone in the same place, then you wouldn't lose it.
No, you have a real problem.
The problem
Let's face it, you have a
is,
real
the problem is, if I could remember to put my glasses and my keys and my phone in the same place, then I would. The problem is remembering, or rushing.
Not.
It's
No, it's
rushing.
not.
You know, when this person is saying, this is a texter who says, she says, you're overwhelmed, you're not sure how to start, and she said, by just seeing what I can get rid of, so purge. It's very difficult to purge. That's why Marie Kondo's advice was good, is it sparked joy. But stuff that you kept for mental reasons, like, your parents' stuff, if you have any old sports coats that belong to your father, you would probably throw them out.
You think your kids, when you're dead, want the stuff from your parents?
No, but I have suits of my mother's that are still in my closet.
And what do you think? Are you going to use them in the next 90 days?
No.
Have you used them in the last 90 days?
But here's the thing.
Take a picture of them, throw them out, or recycle them.
You're not supposed to throw out textiles.
So you give them to somebody.
Yeah, well, it's not that easy to do.
Okay, let me explain.
What you
Marjorie
end up having is piles. You end up having the recycle
Marjorie
pile.
should not even
and
be
the
part of this
donate
discussion.
Pile, and then you just have more piles of stuff.
Anonymous texter says, what's the story about the voodoo doll behind Jim? The answer is I cannot mention that. Actually, it is a voodoo doll. Thank you. We're not getting into that. What is my... Oh, Marjorie, let me give you an example. I have tried to help Marjorie in her... Excuse me. What? Look at this. Look at the...
There's the voodoo doll.
Here's what I do to Marjorie. Marjorie says, I got to remember to bring
It's a really
X
ugly
tomorrow.
little thing.
Here's what I tell Marjorie to do. I say, Marjorie, put the thing in front of the door to your house so that you cannot open the door without it. You know what she says the next day? It was by the door. She opened the door, stepped over it, and went to work without bringing
there's
it.
something wrong with me, obviously.
There is something, yes.
But I think it's like when people say, and this other texter is saying, or somebody said, don't put it down, put it away. But if you're in a hurry, you don't do that. You just put it down, and then when you come home. And Donna on the road is saying, oh, no, here's the best way to force a cleanup is to throw a party. You clean before you have guests, and then you don't have to do it again until next year. Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
That's
but what many of
anonymous.
us do when we have a party is we just throw everything in one room. All the crap that's in another part of the room where people are going to be, we throw it in one room, close the door so nobody can go in there.
Okay.
So now I have this room, which is almost floor to ceiling of junk.
Okay, Marjorie's been totally unhelpful in this conversation. Let's be clear. We want to know if any of these rules, the 90-90 rule, the 20-10 rule, the one in, one out rule, if you live by any of these things, and if not, I assume some of you have worked to declutter. Let me say one more thing. We had this discussion.
You should talk. If your house is anything like your car, you have got more crap in
Well, can I
your
just tell you
car.
one thing? I do have to walk into my house sideways. That is true. That is true. Do you remember when Shirley Leung told us she got one of those pods outside her house and she filled it up and then
Filled it
another?
up.
Let me just say one thing. I
That's
admit
a good idea. Get a pod.
I'm not the best at this. The number's 877-301-8970 to call or text, by the way. But let me just say this. I've said this a million times on the air. There are few things as satisfying in life than throwing out a box of crap. When you fill a whole box with junk that you haven't used in centuries, that you know you're never going to use it. What's with the roving camera on all over? Look at this. It's totally... By the way, we did not set
I
it
would
up
like to point
for
out
this purpose.
that's Jim's stuff. That's not
It is
my
not
stuff.
my stuff.
You know, they put a little barrier over here, over the
Yeah,
side
so
of
you
the
can't put
studio.
your stuff on the
I can hide it. I
windowsill?
can hide it behind on the windowsill. That's what I do.
Okay.
But it's very difficult for some people to do these kinds of things. I mean, I got that Marie Kondo book years ago. I was all excited.
Yeah.
I tell you what I did do.
Yeah, but she's a fraud too. She said when she had her 3 kids,
Because if
she
you
stopped
have
doing
3
it.
kids, you have to give up. But you know what she did do that was a big
No, I
life changer
don't.
for me?
No.
She had to organize your closet from the longest to the shortest.
Yes.
So long skirts and long pants are
know
in
that.
one end,
Uh-huh.
and then you move up. So how many times do you spend looking for shirts, and
Wait
they're
a second.
among all
Wait
the
a second.
sweaters?
You have 1 skirt and 1 top. Why do you need to organize
Jim,
anything?
I have them in different colors.
Oh, you do? That's
I do
true.
have them in different colors.
That is true.
I have 7 sweaters in different colors. But you want to have the sweaters,
Are we
and
gonna
then you
talk to
have the
anybody or
shirts.
what?
And that has been a life changer.
No, it is not.
And also, you know what else she says
No,
you
it's
should
not.
do? You
No, I
should
don't.
roll up your underwear. Yeah.
I roll my underwear. You don't roll your underwear?
I do now.
You do? Yeah.
That's what Marie Kondo says.
Okay, fine. So we sort of
very
lost
satisfying.
focus. We're talking about decluttering, and we were inspired by this Washington Post piece. It
I don't
was.
know.
Yes, it was by Jolie Kerr, talking about the reason these numbers thing, the 90-90, the 20-10, all these things work is because numbers imply, that's probably the wrong verb, orderliness, so it helps you. You have something you want to say before we get to the calls?
Well, here's
finally?
a perfect one. I don't have a problem. When my house gets too cluttered, I just move more stuff into one of my storage units.
That's great.
And I think that's what a lot of people do.
Or just move.
Or, you know what I did over the weekend? I don't know why it's so hard for me.
What?
I threw out lipstick. I hadn't worn this lipstick because it's the wrong color. I don't like it. But for some reason, I'm always thinking, I better save it just in case there's an emergency.
Can I just say one last thing? And that's how I feel. Let me just say one thing. This shows when Marjorie makes critical comments, which she thinks are funny, it stays with me forever. Here's Tom from San Diego. I can't listen to Jim address clutter until it's addressed whether his car is still growing mushrooms
Well,
or
it's
not.
true.
By the way, that was 2 cars ago. I have the Tesla now. I can't even remember.
The Tesla
I had the car
is
in between.
full of stuff.
There's no
I
mushrooms.
have never gotten into your car without you having to say, I got to get the stuff off the seat.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a big
You know what's
process.
great for? Keeping people out of your car. Now, I can't remember the name of my last car. I had another car. And then before
You
that.
had a Highlander.
No, that was like 8 cars ago. I had
you had that ridiculous sports car.
I had
that red thing.
No, I did not. It
Yeah,
wasn't
you
a
thought
sports.
you were hip.
Oh my God, I'm not even.
It was a
gonna
red
talk
car.
to you.
The Genesis.
Genesis.
The
Thank
Genesis.
you. Jamie knows what kind of car I have. I did
Thank
not
you,
know.
Jamie.
Before the Genesis, I had a Taurus station wagon. The Taurus station wagon
You had
did
a-
have mushrooms
you had a
going in the
Toyota
car.
Highlander.
That was before that.
No, the Taurus station wagon
Paula,
was before.
I'm done with this. Paula in Providence. We're talking about.
It was before.
Paula in Providence. We're talking decluttering. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi. I listen to you all the time like everybody else.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My mother was great at cleaning up. She would set the timer, and after 20 minutes, we go from room to room to help her clean up. So my idea was to, and I was just thinking of it when I'm driving now with this decluttering page. I'm gonna get a big bowl, and in that bowl, I'm gonna put pieces of paper. I'm gonna put, and I'm gonna take out that piece of paper every day and dedicate 15 minutes to decluttering. And on those little pieces of paper, it's gonna be refrigerator. It's gonna be makeup.
This is great.
It's gonna be shoes. It's gonna be. I can't do an hour worth of doing that. It's taking too much time. I can do it for 15 minutes.
Paula, can I interrupt you? I don't know if this is the point you're making or not. When you do 15 minutes, which seems like nothing, the amount you can accomplish is epic. Is that part of what you're trying to say?
It is.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, I'll say 15 minutes, but you know what's going to happen. It's going to be 20 and 25. And I'm going
Excellent.
to walk away, and like you said earlier, you get a high.
You get a high. You really do get a high.
You do.
Paula, that was an
you're
excellent call. You have exactly the right spirit for this conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Christopher from Shrewsbury says, please always do the roving camera in the studio. It makes me feel so much better about my own organizational skills. And then another
No,
texter.
you didn't finish. 3 exclamation marks.
Yeah.
And then she writes 3 exclamation points, absolutely necessary.
And then here's another person who says, I'm a messy person by nature, but your studio is disgusting.
It's not disgusting. First of all, it's nothing.
Please clean it for your amazing guests. We did clean it for our amazing guests. This This is better than it was a half hour ago.
By the way, can I say one thing? Nothing is dirty in here. It is a little messy. No, there's not. What are you making a face? There's nothing dirty.
The wall?
Well, that's dirty. That's a little dirty.
You've thrown things out?
Okay, listen. I really, this is not helpful. This is not helpful. I'm hanging by a thread as it is. So let's move on.
I think you're a hoarder, Jim. That's
I'm
what
not
I
a
think.
hoarder.
I think you are.
And you know what? I'm not going to tell you where I was going to tell the story about Mr. Jerusalem, Mr. Gentilome, Mr. Jerusalem, who was my client in the South Bronx.
He was a hoarder.
Who was a hoarder. I'm not telling that. So what is this?
Are they showing more pictures?
No, they are apparently. This is really an intimate, far too intimate for these purposes.
There's Jim's recycling bin.
Okay.
It's been there since 1989.
It's not. It's actually was there since last week. Eric in Arlington, you're next. We're trying to discuss decluttering, not with much success. Hi.
Oh, the
Hi, how are
toilet
you?
paper.
Okay.
On the windowsill.
You always need toilet paper near bride. That's my motto. Let's go. Eric, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So I guess I'm a second generation struggler with organization.
Yeah.
And so my mother gets probably 100 pieces of mail every day.
Oops.
And every time I go to visit her, she needs help with all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a problem with dealing with paper. So every time I travel down to Baltimore to visit her, I put all of my important papers that I need to go through into a box, and I bring that down to Baltimore with me. And usually I come back with the exact same box of papers I haven't even gotten a chance to look at while I was down there.
Oh, God.
That is a sad tale.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, we have a horrible connection. I'm sorry to do this to you, but we got to cut you short. It's only because of the connection. It's not your story is excellent, but it's a bad connection. 877-301-8097.
I have my grandparents' wedding gifts. I also need a silver appraisal. I have endless cards congratulating my parents on their 1942 wedding.
Well, let me repeat what I said a minute ago. The most moving, impactful, a word I really hate, thing I've ever read about clutter is
Marie
what I said to
Kondo.
you. No, it was something I said to you a few minutes ago. I've read it a lot of times. Is once you reach like 40, you have to start thinking about dumping things so that when you're dead, whenever that is, 30 years, 40 years, hopefully a long time, your kids do not have to deal with stuff that they don't want to deal with. It's your obligation to your children.
How are you doing with those boxes of papers, the Jim Browdy papers?
The Jim Browdy archives. Now, the reason... Now, since you bring that up, and I know you mean that in an insulting way.
When I first knew you, you had like 20 boxes.
Okay.
That was like 25 years ago.
I have a few more now. Now, the reason I'm doing that, which you might not understand, is I know that eventually someone is going to want my archives. And you know what's going to happen? Don't you have the feeling? By the way, I'm not joking about this. I know this is a disease.
Yeah.
When I'm ready to throw away something like boxes of papers from whatever, I swear to you, I say to myself, I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to need something in that box. Even though I haven't needed it for 15 years.
That's the thing. That's what's very difficult when people talk about getting rid of makeup. Mascara doesn't last that long. You have to kind of throw it out.
Yeah.
I must have about 7 things of mascara. And every day I try to figure out which one is the newer one so I can use it in my eyes. And, of course, I can't figure that out. That gives me an extra 10 minutes in the morning.
Okay. Can we take calls or we still have screwed up
mascaras.
lines? We can. Let's go to the lines were a little messed up. They're working fine now. Our apologies. Amy in Maine, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Hi, you guys. I've been to your show twice, but I've never called before.
We're thrilled that you did.
I'm coming again on Friday. So
Say hi, Amy.
Be warned.
Say hi.
Hi.
I'm serious.
Hi.
No, say hi when you're there, I meant. Go ahead.
Oh, sure, I will.
Great.
I spent my birthday there last year.
Oh, my God, how
weird is
nice.
that?
That's fabulous.
I don't know if you remember. We were sitting in the back. This was in January, and it was just so much fun because I
That's great.
really love the show, and I love the library.
You were really nice to say
cool.
all that. Thank you. So what's up
you're
today?
welcome. Well, I just felt compelled to call because I am an organizer, not professionally, but I am always, my husband and I were in the military. He was in the military, and we moved every year.
Yeah.
So our rule of thumb was, every year go through everything because you don't want to take it with you.
Great point.
And we just managed to travel light. And then I started working with people, friends that said, I just don't know how to get started. And a lot of it is just getting rid of those things that have such memory attached to them.
It's really hard.
And really hard, and just kind of really asking why is this, why are you holding on to this? The memory's in your head. You can let go of the physical part because it's already there in your head and heart. So it really gets people thinking about things, and once they get started, they just go, and it's very gratifying.
Well,
very gratifying.
Amy, you touch on one of the most helpful things I thought Marie Kondo said, which is if you're going to give away a sweater or whatever you're going to give away, you thank it. You thank it for the times you wore it, and you are really nice to the sweater, even though obviously it's an inanimate object, and it makes you feel less guilty about getting rid of it, because it no longer sparks joy, but it was of service for quite some time.
Well, that's not the whole thing. She also says thank it and then rub it all over your body. She said just for one. Amy, that was an excellent call. See you Friday. Here's Jill from Watertown.
Yeah, did you read that one?
I had totally forgotten this. This was totally true.
Yes.
BPR cleaning flashback, Jill says. Remember when you two interviewed author Ann Patchett? I totally do. A couple years ago. And while we're doing the interview, Ann starts cleaning up our studio. Jill's reminding us literally. It was hilarious to hear you trying to be polite, but clearly perturbed that she was touching your stuff. Maybe she should come back. She did that. I can't remember what she said. We asked her about why she was doing it, and I think she just has an organizer instinct in her.
Okay, Carol from Winchester, she does the same thing I do. My sister and brother-in-law flying in from California now. I thought they were arriving after 5. Now I found out they're getting in at 3:46. So I've been throwing everything into my daughter's room. She lives in Brooklyn now. You can't even walk in her room now. My youngest daughter's room is full of debris. I mean, it is unbelievable. Her
Is that
bed,
what you do? You throw everything in there?
Yeah. If I'm having somebody come over to the house and I just have all this stuff, I throw it into one room, or sometimes I hide it behind my bed.
That's great.
Well, it's not great because then you just have these piles now in another room.
Not one person has called about these numbers things that were the inspiration for the discussion. What do you think that?
Because
look at this.
ridiculous.
Look what they're doing to us. There's a roll of toilet paper, and let me explain the roll of toilet paper. It's because one day you don't have to get a close up.
In case you have to blow your nose.
No, exactly. One day we didn't have anything to blow our nose in.
There's
That's a spoon. You always need a spoon.
Those green things are really good.
They're very good.
For my pineapples in there.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm very attached to that green thing.
And there's a dirty plastic
there's
fork.
Salt.
You never know when you'll need a dirty plastic fork. Sparks joy. It's really embarrassing. I know. Okay, anonymous text says, I'm listening to you on the way back from taking more things that were filling up my garage to fill up my storage bin. I have no answers for you, the person said.
My sister has had storage and things in storage since she left New York like 25 years ago. Yeah. And she's always saying every time somebody moves, I have a beautiful dining room table in storage.
Well, it's
nobody wants a dining room table. It's in storage. But she keeps telling people that she has this beautiful dining room table in storage and doesn't realize that nobody wants it. Probably by now it's been in storage long. It will smell bad.
Now, this anonymous texter actually gets me better than you do. This person said, brilliantly, if I may say, Jim needs these papers for his memoir. It'll be called Grudges, Free Food, and Endless Interruptions. That actually is the name that I intended to give this. Now, let me tell you something. There is not one piece of extra paper in his house. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I've never been in his house, but
unless you hid everything in the closet when I came over to see you.
Well, everybody has a Monica closet. You remember that episode of Friends where Monica, who was very type A, and she's got everybody has a Monica closet. I have a Monica closet.
Put all your stuff in there, and people are coming over.
You shove it all in there.
You shove it all in there, but then at some point you can't close the door to the closet anymore.
Then you have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I put it in a bedroom, my spare bedroom for my youngest daughter. I mean, she comes home and she just can't believe that I've ruined her bedroom.
What's your studio look like?
It's very clean.
It is really?
It's very clean. I don't have
like ours,
4 entrees on the table just randomly. Although this one looks really good. I'd like to take this one with me.
There's something behind Jared. It says a second disgusting room file.
Well, it's where our coffee machine is. The printer. There are a few things out there. There is a Marjorie. No, actually, there's a jar Marjorie bought in milk a month ago, and she hasn't taken the jar home yet.
All I did
that is an espresso machine that hasn't worked in 5 years. That's right. And that is it's a coffee. I bring in ground coffee. I'm sorry, Jared's not getting to speak.
That is my
Do you have any input
milk
on this, Jared? Say something.
All I did was graze that counter, and I already have this fungus growing on my hand.
I do try to clean the counter. I don't like.
So do I. I clean it almost every day. I've cleaned it.
Look, I can't even lift up my hands because they're sticking to this table.
The microwave oven is really disgusting.
Okay. Well, that was the most useless 20 minutes because we help people not at all.
What's in this box?
Don't touch
our
it.
Pasta.
It's not yours.
That's our special homemade pasta, and it's just delicious. That's what this is.
It smells really good.
It smells really good.
Ken Oringer and this great business he started with people with autism who are doing all the work in Little Donkey in the morning, and it's fabulous.
Chitarra Pastaria.
I'm going to tweet out the website in about an hour after the show, so check it out, please.
So, what are you doing in your show today?
So today we've been talking a lot about David Drake, the potter, whose works have now been repatriated to his family. Today we'll have the family members on. So we'll get deep into the story. We've talked about it on the Culture Show, but these are works that were in the Museum of Fine Arts collection. First time in American history that works have been repatriated to the descendants of an enslaved person, an enslaved artist.
That is fabulous.
So we'll talk to the family. And then Patrick Wolf, the musician, has a new album, Crying the Neck. He'll be at the Arts at the Armory for a show in Somerville tonight. We will talk to him. He's going to perform as well. And then Dory Greenspan has...
the wonderful cookbooks.
And she has a new cookbook. It's called Dory's Anytime Cakes. And she remembers this time when you would go into your grandmother's house and there would always be a cake on the counter, and she's trying to bring that back. It's just like this, actually.
Let me just say one thing about Dory. We met her through Corby.
Shepherd's pie.
And I thought shepherd's pie, which is my favorite food, I made better than anybody. And I switched to her Mediterranean shepherd's pie.
It's much better.
It's the single best thing I make.
She's going to be with us
tell her.
December 8th.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we can talk all about the shepherd's pie.
That's fabulous. Okay, so on your way out, can you clean up a little bit?
No, I don't have time, but I would love to come over to your house and do it too. Bye.
I think Jim is a hoarder.
See,
That's what I think.
Why do you care what I am? How's that hurting
I'm just
you?
pointing that out. I'm not a hoarder. I just want to point that out.
By the way, this pasta is fabulous.
Great.
It's really good.
Okay, thank you very much for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. We're not going to be at the library tomorrow. It's closed because of Veterans Day. But we're going to have a great show. Nonetheless, CNN's John King, Michael Curry from the NAACP and Mass League of Community Health Centers, NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey, and Axios business editor Dan Premack, who knows everything there is to know about the economy. Our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Comley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Additional support from Mira Donaldson, Maddie Geyer, and Colin Cockrell on today's live stream. We'll have to find out who is doing the camera all around the studio, Jim.
Do you know what? By the way, Dan Premack, you know what he's going to talk about? Trump's grifting.
Yeah, grifting
He's going
on
to break
the crypto
down all the
stuff.
grifting, yeah.
Our engineer is John LaClaw Parker. Our executive producer is Jane Bologna. The Culture Show with Jared Bowen is right after us on 89.7 GBH. Going to be another great Jared show. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I don't want to upset you. You really have to clean up your stuff. It's really, it's embarrassing to me. Okay, I'm Jim Browdy. We'll see you tomorrow.
To you. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Central Square Theater with Summer 1976. Pulitzer Prize winner David Auburn's play about friendship, memory, and small moments that change our lives forever. Summer 1976 through November 30th. CentralSquareTheater.org. Hosted by country music star Trace Adkins and featuring performances accompanied by the U.S. Army Field Band. Don't miss Salute to Service 2025, a Veterans Day celebration. Tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, nearly 2 centuries after he carved his name into clay, the work of David Drake, an enslaved potter and poet, has returned home. In a landmark act of restitution, the Museum of Fine Arts has repatriated 2 of his monumental vessels to his descendants. Today, they join us to share what the homecoming means for art, history, and family. Then it's musician Patrick Wolf, known for blending classical strings with electronic edge to create music that's equal parts raw and orchestral. After a decade away from the spotlight, he returns with Crying the Neck, a haunting new album shaped by the wild coast of eastern England. We catch up with him ahead of his Arts at the Armory show in Somerville. And baker and author Dory Greenspan. The 5-time James Beard Award winner is known for turning baking into an art of everyday pleasure. Her new cookbook, Dory's Anytime Cakes, is filled with loaves, buns, and snackable slices, even a few savory surprises, proving there's a perfect cake for every kind of day. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. The Museum of Fine Arts has taken an historic step in confronting America's past. In a first-of-its-kind move, it has returned 2 monumental stoneware vessels from its collection to the descendants of the man who made them, David Drake, an enslaved potter from South Carolina. Drake's artistry was remarkable not only for the scale and beauty of his work, but also for his defiance. At a time when it was against the law for enslaved people to learn to read and write, he signed his name, and sometimes inscribed verse all into clay. Now, more than a century and a half later, his legacy has come full circle. Joining us are his 4th-generation granddaughter, Pauline Baker, and her son, Yaba Baker, to reflect on what this return means for their family and for history. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, I am so excited to speak with you because I have seen your ancestors' work in museums for many, many, many years before I saw it on view, before people even understood his last name. So this has been fascinating to watch. Pauline, let me start with you. So just for the backstory, we've talked about this actually a lot on the show, but for people who haven't heard us yet, how would you describe your ancestor, David Drake, as an artist?
I would describe him first as a man and as extremely talented artist, as well as a humanitarian, because you can tell with some of his verses on his pots that he was a very religious person as well. So I would like for them to think of him as a man first and a person that slavery couldn't enslave his mind or his soul.
At what point did you come to the understanding that this man who has worked in collections in major museums throughout this country was your ancestor?
That was the year 2016, and it was very memorable because of the fact April Hines, a genealogist, traced us down. She located my nephew, whose name is Fortune Carolina, and out of my mother's obituary, she said I should be able to track him because his name is unusual. And that's how she found us, through his last name. And she contacted his wife. His wife, in turn, called my sister, Daisy. And, of course, she felt it was a scam. Mm-hmm. And so did her husband, because that's what was going on during that time. And if she had listened to her husband, she would have hung up the phone, because he kept saying, it's a scam. It's a scam. Don't give him any information. She said, but it was something in April's voice that made her continue to talk to her. And then she said she was like, oh, you know a lot about my family. How do you know this information? And so that's when the conversation started. And that was the day that we found out that we had that lineage to Dave Drake.
Well, I have more questions about that lineage and the history, but Yaba, let me first bring us to the present day and this moment where, again, this is the first time that this has happened in American history, where you have an institution repatriating a piece of art to the descendants of an enslaved person. We know this has been done all over Europe. Art is regularly now, fortunately, routinely repatriated to Jewish families whose work was looted during the Nazis, but this has not happened for the descendants of enslaved people. How do you describe the magnitude of what's just happened?
I think it's hard to really explain how big it is, because it's the first of its kind. And actually, the argument you're using right now is what we use in bringing this up to the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. And to their credit, they stood by their values. That whole team over there, we give them a lot of credit for, because in this environment, we all know what environment we're in. It could have went a lot of different ways. And for us, they stood by their values and agreed that because of their broken ownership, that it should be returned to its descendants, and has now set a precedent that can be looked at and followed for other museums as well.
So, Pauline, what happened with the stoneware vessels? So the Museum of Fine Arts had 2 of them in their collection.
Yes.
They gave them back to the family, and then what has happened?
I believe my son probably could explain it much better because he's been in contact with George Fatherly that actually talked with the museum. He can explain that better than I can.
So basically, the museum returned the pots to us, fully gave them to us. Us as a family, we wanted the pots to be still seen. We didn't want to take them and put them in private collections and things like that. So we agreed to sell one back to the museum and then loan the other one to them as well. And so that, again, was also a landmark situation because a lot of times people get their stuff back and they kind of go away with it, right? We feel Dave is a landmark figure. We think he's an inspirational figure. We think he showed brilliance, resilience, and resistance all at the same time. And we think that should not be hidden. It should be something that everybody should be able to be inspired by and see.
Well, and I don't mean to be crass about this, but if all people just have to look at the auction numbers to know how valuable, it's certainly in the millions, his work is today. So I assume that's part of what you're talking about in this climate where museums don't necessarily have to make this decision. Why has it been important for you to ensure that this remains in public view and that people can continue to read what he wrote?
I think it's one of those time periods where there's certain pieces of art that change art. Mm-hmm. I think Dave is one of those figures that changed art. And I think it would be such a tragedy that if people couldn't experience it for generations to come. And that's why the conversations with the MFA was so important, because if we can come to agreement on this, then generations to come can experience Dave in a way with the right kind of ownership, ethical ownership, and really fully understand him as a human being, not just an artist.
Pauline, I'm wondering how this has changed your life.
Well, it's changed. It's changed, and you feel delighted, you feel enthusiastic. It gives you that inner ability to say something can happen in the future that's better than what's been in the past, that we can all kind of come to the meeting of the minds. And it also makes you feel that this is a pathway to the future, that things can be restored, and things can be put in the right order without hurting anyone. And so it's a great feeling. And I can't really describe the feeling. I just know it makes you feel good inside, happy. And I'm deeply moved by MFA because, like you said, they didn't have to do this.
And what does it mean to have gone through so much of your life without having this understanding that you had such a famous artist in your ancestry and in your DNA, presumably? I don't know if you have artists in your family. Do you have artists in your family?
Yes, not famous artists, but we have a talent for drawing. We have a talent for making things and just creative. So not necessary in ceramics or anything like that, but yes, there is a underlying talent in the arts.
She's being modest. She actually made a table.
You did.
She made a table that looks like it belongs in a magazine, and people would come by and admire it and ask where she bought it. And I would say, no, she made that. No, she didn't. I said, yes, she did. So
you're too modest. You're on the radio. This is the chance to talk about it. This is fantastic. Well, and what about that regard? Does it change how you think about crafting something like a table to know that maybe there was more here than you ever realized?
I think so. It made us look back at our family. I have nieces that draw. I have one that writes very well and considered going into journalism. And I have a nephew now that's in college that wrote a letter pertaining to Dave. I don't have it with me right now, but I would let you see it. It's in my pocketbook. But anyway, yes, it gave us a glimpse of what talent was in our family that we hadn't paid much attention to.
And I think the other piece is, for African Americans, it's always a broken chain of history. So we don't get a chance to go back 4 and 5 generations and say, hey, that's my ancestor. We can do that now. I was talking about my daughter and my son. They now have a piece of their history they didn't have before. And now this famous artist that people are admiring from around the world, that's your lineage. And that's different for us.
If people are just tuning in, I'm speaking with Pauline Baker and Yaba Baker. They are descendants of David Drake, also known as Dave the Potter, whose works are in major museums all across this country. 2 of them have just recently been repatriated to the descendants of his family. Well, what does this mean going forward? As you just mentioned, there is this broken chain of custody. And it was difficult for a long time to repatriate art that was looted in the Nazi era as well, until documents were finally gathered and surfaced. The same is discussed with ancestors of enslaved people, that so many are anonymous. But we know that Henry Louis Gates Jr., for one, is embarking on this massive project to identify all enslaved people in this country. What do you envision going forward?
We want to have open discussions. One discussion has been, what does this mean? And for us, just like the MFA, we want to have an open dialogue about broken ownership. What does that mean for museums to adhere to their own policies about restitution? But mainly just engage in, like my mom said, civil conversations. It doesn't have to be you win, I lose, I win, you lose. Let's talk about how we can move forward together, because essentially we're all in this together. Not to use a quaint phrase that we all use all the time, but it's true. We're all in this together. So we have dialogue to get to a new space.
I want to hear more about that, because people could imagine a situation, excluding your family, excluding the MFA, where a major museum and descendants could end up in a legal lawsuit over something like this. But you were at pains to avoid that.
I think it was because we know that there's no legal law, and we felt engagement is a much better way to deal with the situation than to try to go at each other, and I got you kind of situation. It's more of, let's sit down, you have policies, you have procedures, and we know you have done this before, not with African Americans. So this can be an outstanding moment for MFA and for the family as well.
What does this mean for the other institutions, the National Gallery in Washington, Chicago, the Met in New York, the St. Louis Museum, Crystal Bridges in Arkansas? They all have your great-great-great-great-grandfather's vessels.
Open discussion. George Farthery is going to enter in discussions with a lot of these museums.
He's a lawyer who you've been working with.
Yeah, George Farthery is a lawyer who actually kind of brokered the deal. And if you have, he was part of the Bruce Beach case. You're not familiar with that case, where a black family, their land was given back to them, I think from LA County. He was their lawyer. So he was a perfect lawyer for this particular case as well. And he's done a marvelous job in making sure that it's engaging discussions, but they move along as well. So we like the same thing with other museums. We want to have discussions about, if you have policies for restitution, then let's honor those policies. Let's find a way to work together. Let's find a way to not have broken ownership of pots that you are aware it's broken ownership. So let's just sit down and talk.
Well, especially when we know David Drake's history, because he left some of it for us in the poetry and verse that he literally carved into these vessels. Again, when he was literally carving his name into these vessels for all time, at a time when it was against the law to do that. How do you dissect what this man was going through, especially when he made allusions to being separated from his family, who was sold away from him?
Well, we went through those emotions when we first heard about it. It was like we were delighted to hear the news. We were grateful for hearing the news, but then it took us on a journey of, how did he exist? How did he do this every day, 7 days a week, from sun up to sundown? In a place, it even drove me to find out how hot a kennel can be, to work in that environment, 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit in the South Carolina sun. I could imagine him being dehydrated, just to get through the day, but yet and still he was able to channel his mental and physical being to produce a product that he did produce. And to me, that's amazing. And it takes a lot of strength and resilience to do that.
And for I'm a dad. My daughter's 17, my son is 13. I couldn't imagine never seeing them again. That had to be a type of gut-wrenching pain that's daily, because I look forward to seeing my kids every evening, to ask them about their day, to talk to them. My son's 13, my daughter's 17. Me and my son have daily conversations, sometimes 20, 30 minutes long. And so for me, seeing him as a human being, I think sometimes when you have these great artists or these great figures in history, we don't really see them as human beings. And I'm glad you brought that point up, because as a human being, to not know if that kid on the street was an adult is your kid, or if they're alive, or are they doing well, do they need my help? You know, as a parent, that has to be gut-wrenching. And for him to still make these types of pots with this type of precision and this, so he's not only a great artist, he's a great man. And he showed over and over again he was able to push through a lot of things to still keep his, human side of him. Because he wasn't mean-spirited. The verses he wrote a lot of times, he was saying friendship to all. And those types to experience that kind of hate towards you but not put it back out is amazing.
Well, this has been, at least from the Museum of Fine Arts conversation part of this is a remarkable end and a remarkable beginning, let's hope. We look forward to continuing to cover this story and hopefully have more conversations with you as this proceeds. Thank you so much for being here. And I should mention, for people who want to go to the MFA, they can see the vessels, and they will be given prominence in the new Art of the American Gallery is right next to Paul Revere's own bowl next year when they open to celebrate our bicentennial, or not, no, it's the 250th, a word I'm not going to say because I can never say that word, but thank you both for being here. It's really a pleasure to be with you.
Same here. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Pauline Baker and Yaba Baker are descendants of David Drake, the enslaved poet and potter whose signed stoneware was recently returned to his family in an historic move by the Museum of Fine Arts, and as we discussed, is also now back on view at the Museum of Fine Arts. To see David Drake's work on view, you can visit the MFA. To learn more, go to mfa.org. Coming up, musician Patrick Wolf returns with his first full album in a decade with Crying the Neck, a work born from the English coastline and his own creative revival. He's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's art and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, Mark Wolf was appointed as a federal judge by President Ronald Reagan in 1985. The senior judge for the U.S. District Court of Massachusetts is now resigning to protest President Donald Trump's abuse of the law. And Governor Healy is giving an update on where things stand with SNAP benefits in Massachusetts. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Boston Ballet, presenting George Balanchine's Jewels, showcasing 3 distinct styles of neoclassical ballet in one brilliant program. Now on stage through November 16th at Citizens Opera House. Tickets at bostonballet.org. And Burton's Grill and Bar, featuring a scratch kitchen where each dish is customizable for those with food allergies or restrictions. A gluten-free menu is also available. Details on their allergy protocols at burtonsgrill.com. And Revolutionary Valley. On April 19th, 1775 in Lexington and Concord, the first shots of the Revolution rang out. This is the heart of Revolutionary Valley. revolutionaryvalley.org. Funded in part by the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism.
Here, local isn't a buzzword, it's our beat. We're on the ground, in your neighborhood, covering the issues that impact you. GBH News 89.7, gbhnews.org, and streaming on the GBH app.
Lush orchestral instrumentation, all layered with Wolf's deeply confessional lyrics. His latest album follows a decade of self-imposed exile from the music industry. during which he struggled with addiction and personal loss. Crying the Neck is deeply marked by the musician's move from London to the coastal town of Ramsgate in southeastern England, where his life is decidedly quieter. Wolf is now touring America for the first time since 2013. He performs at the Center for the Arts at the Armory in Somerville tonight at 7. Patrick Wolf, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, how is it being back out on tour right now?
So much of returning to work this is my first tour in America in 13 years, yes. So it's confirmation that I'm at the beginning of chapter 2 of my work as an artist and a writer. And, some of the audience have really surprised me in that one of the big threads is that people come up and say, I was too young to come to your shows when I first discovered your music in 2007 and 8. So my audience was a lot younger here than actually in Europe. 2007, since discovering my music in school or college, and there's just like a kind of I feel somehow my songs over time have kind of found a purpose here, and that's the most rewarding thing as a writer, that your work has purpose,
Well, especially being mindful of that, as you described this as chapter 2, how would you describe this versus chapter 1 and what your music really represents about you now?
Well, I can't remember so much of chapter 1 because I was drunk most of it, so like and in a kind of like hurricane, really, because I released my first work at 19 and then went into an album cycle of album every year and a half, and really I didn't unpack for about 11 years, so that was all throughout my 20s, living out in the public and with my audience, all the trials and tribulations and dramas of my 20s, without any healing or without my healing, and my therapy only came through kind of public discourse and writing, so it was very important. In order to continue, I had to stop. Yeah.
How did you find your way back to your voice, and for the time that you were away from the public, were you still creating, or did you even take a release from that too?
I had a good year where I had within recovery, you if you're lucky, you have sponsors, to help you through the 12 steps, and when I came into recovery fully into 2016, I came in going, okay, so when can I get back to work? Right. So I just thought I had to be sober, but there was so much of, I guess they say, if you want to know why you're using or drinking, then stop and you'll find out, and then the work really began, and I realized I'm not going to be able to get back into the very high jeopardy, for mental health job that this is, to do the tour that I'm doing. I have to be physically at my best, mentally at my best, and sometimes your best isn't even enough. So to add in the fragility of early recovery into that was just not doable for me. So I had to take a good couple of years off, where my sponsor just said, no Patrick Wolf, that we're just not even going to talk about that for a couple of years, and then
Patrick Wolf meaning the stage,
the whole
persona,
project, everything just had to stop, and had to work out, how to function as a human being, and that combined then with clinical psychotherapy about my relationship with those first 10 years of work, and so I was kind of like double I was about to say something rude there, but it was like it was like a double slaying of the beast, like with one arm, it was like trying to like decipher the problems of the human, and then and rebuild, and then with the other hand decipher the problems with career, vocation, music industry, and rebuild there. So it wasn't until this year I released my my 7th album after 12 years. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you about what it's like to write on the other side of that. But let's go back to the music from the album. This is, and I know this is a very poignant story for you, which we'll hear on the other side. Here's Jupiter from Patrick Wolf's latest album, Crying the Neck. What is the reference to Jupiter there?
Well, in my first 90 days clean, I woke up. I used to live right in the centre of London in an area called Bloomsbury, you know, where Virginia Woolf used to live, and I looked out across my my flat in the morning on like the 8th floor, and there was an alignment of 3 really bright stars, and I don't think I hadn't. It just struck me as unusual for being in centre of London to see stars anyway, and you know, I woke up that morning and I'd been. Yeah, in early days, hardcore recovery, and that feeling of like life is going to get worse because you're about to expose all the problems. You're about to lift the rock, you know, and have the strength to lift it up, and all the earwigs and caterpillars and creatures are going to run scuttling, and that's what felt like the 90 days. But then that morning, and I then looked on the internet, and it was the first time Jupiter had been that close to Earth, and that's why there was like this bright star, and ever since then I've held Jupiter as my planet of recovery and guidance. Yeah.
And when you have gone back into the music, we hear how lush your orchestrations are and how robust and beautiful the music is. How has that been a salvation? Because of course you were doing it before too.
Interestingly, the last, you know, I've had 2 albums on major labels, and what comes with that is if you play the game right, then you can have the, you know, most insane budget to record your album. So that meant that I was, for the album before I checked out of the music industry, well, the big album before I did that was with a 21-piece orchestra in Air Studios, where they do the James Bond soundtracks, you know, like the most expensive studio in London with the hugest orchestra. And also there's such a, you know, if anyone has worked in film or TV, you know, like the bigger the budget, the more people have to get involved because time is money, and so basically an arranger had to come in. I studied composition at school, and it used to be like one of my languages that I spoke quite fluently, and then going into the major label world, it was one of the languages that was taken from, or the voices got taken from me, because they're like, well, Patrick, you know, there's a lot of money at stake here. Are you sure you're going to arrange for a 21-piece orchestra? I think if I had been given like a couple of months, which you don't have. Anyway, so I felt what would be really important when I come back to work is that I reclaim the voices that had been taken from me, you know. And so I went about scoring all the strings myself, just like I did in my early days, and building muscle within that voice again. And that was so holistic, and I to the point where I think in the credits it says like written, produced, and string arrangements by, just to let everyone know, not that generally the world cares as much as I cared about how it felt to emotionally connect with a little bit of emancipation or you know, emancipation that's to do with being a man. I'm not sure whether
we understand.
Definitely not that. You get it. Yeah.
Well, it applies.
Yeah.
Before you play, because you don't have a large orchestra behind you today here in our small studio, but you will perform. But I do want to ask about, you went through the recovery that you talked about, but you also lost your mother. You were hit by a car and had to learn to walk again.
That story is like the Chinese whisper of my life. Like it was dramatic. It was on Lago del Puccini in near Pisa, like the whole drama behind it is like it's very gothic. Like at the end of the road where the accident happened was where Byron's body washed up on the shore.
Goodness.
On the other end was where Puccini lived in his lake house. So it's like, you know, the perfect place to die, you know.
We're fortunate you did not.
And but you know, I was a drunk, you know, and I specifically remember putting on some fake tan in the morning, some like white, you know, Speedos, and like I'm gonna have a beach day, feeling like J-Lo, you know, like got my glow, I'm ready to go down to the beach, and got hit by a car. Yes, that was the beginning of a change in pace in my life for sure, and there was a sense of trauma, but generally in the fact that I was just amassing so many of these events in my life. Not long after that bankruptcy, not long after that, the first news that my mother would enter into this like 2 years decline in her illness. And it was almost like the pinpoint in where things changed for me that moment, yeah.
And my question was going to be, does life feel entirely different? Or is that too dramatic?
Life, I don't even recognize that life apart from I take inspiration from the change that I have worked really hard to create in my life, from that person, from the circumstances I was given and the circumstances I created, most importantly. And life is full of wonder and adventure, and it has misery and it has tension and it has sadness, but in the way that it creates a friction to make me really love the events that happen every day in my life now. You know, I've just driven about 5,000 miles across America by myself. 2 years ago, I didn't even know how to drive, you know? So it's just, there are moments where you're driving through Colorado and then you remember that like 7 years ago, you never thought you would tour again, let alone be halfway across the world and playing to an audience that you thought had forgotten about you, you know. So there are some really beautiful moments in my life, and I hope to show by the magic and wonder of it all that recovery is possible and worth it to anyone struggling out there.
Well, I am speaking with Patrick Wolf. His new album is Crying the Neck. You can catch him tonight at the Center for the Arts at the Armory in Somerville at 7 o'clock. As I said, you have come prepared for a performance. What are you going to play right now?
Oh, well, speaking of that time in my life where there was just after the bankruptcy, like I was my partner then gave me £5 a day to live off, and give it to me in cash, and that afforded me to. Sorry, I felt like I was on stage there and we go into like a 20-minute story. We don't have time for this. Okay, it's a song of solidarity. Basically, I would get on the bus and go visit my mother and while she was having chemotherapy. And I would have to write a little song in my head in order to get through that and be present with my compassion, not make the moment about me, and try. And it was such a specific organization of emotions, of like duty and things to hold back and things to say and what not to say, in order to be like the best by your side I could be. And I looked out across all of the ward, the chemotherapy ward, and saw everybody there in a similar, I think everybody like in with the same arrangement of duty and love and compassion and a little bit of delusion as well. And I just thought I needed to write a song for that moment. I kept it secret for a long time until I had a nightmare about Joni Mitchell, and she came to me and she said, "See, the only other two people I know that play this instrument, the dulcimer, Appalachian dulcimer." So I just came from that appellation. So it's very exciting for me for this instrument to go through where it's originated from. Joni Mitchell and Cyndi Lauper, the only two people I know of in pop culture, singer-songwriter world, that play this. Joni came to me and she said, "Patrick, you have really disappointed me. You have no songs on your album about with the dulcimer, and it's almost like she was saying it's like, the last of the dinosaurs, or like the last, basically the dulcimer will go extinct if I don't put a song on the album. The only song I knew was a really private song that I wrote on the bus to visit my mother. I had two days to hand the album in, so I needed to put something on the album that I knew off by heart, and so I took the dulcimer down off the wall because Joni Mitchell told me to in my nightmare, and recorded this like 2 days before the album went in. So it's called On Your Side. Hopefully it's in tune. Okay, let's have a quick tune.
This is the beauty of live radio. This confirms that we're live on the radio. And while Patrick is tuning, again, we're listening to Patrick Wolf. His new album is Crying the Neck. You will hear much more of a performance tonight at the Center for the Arts at the Armory in Somerville at 7.
A little out of tune, but maybe she's just so excited to be near the Appalachians where she's from. She's getting a bit giddy. Okay, so this one's called On Your Side.
Red sky in the morning, bed she's still sleeping. But sure as the evening crowns the day, when she wakes to keen your fate and fortune forfeit, to be tied out here on your side. I hold the line our audacious hope spoils useless, and the waves start to repeal your pencil line. But you tremble in hand in mine, I whistle in the dark you hide, out here on your side. I hold the line on your side. On your side when the doctor can no more do mending. On your side where the seraph tires his wing and tread. On your side where no lark has been ascending. Hold the line out here on your side. I hold the line on your side. On your side, on your side.
Your talent is just so extraordinary. Thank you for being here with us today. I'm so sad we're out of time because we didn't get to talk about other angels you have in your midst, like Nan Golden and Tilda Swinton and Yoko Ono and Patti Smith. Your orbit is extraordinary, not to mention Jupiter, of course.
Well, I've been a very lucky wolf in my life. Yes.
Well, you've also made yourself a wolf, which is very significant. Patrick Wolf, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Patrick Wolf's new album is Crying the Neck. You can catch him tonight at the Center for the Arts at the Armory in Somerville at 7. To learn more, go to theartsatthearmory.org. Coming up, don't forget what they say, or forget what they say about not having your cake and eating it too. Dory Greenspan, the James Beard award-winning author, is here to prove otherwise with her new cookbook, Dory's Anytime Cakes. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
First came the earthquakes.
The crack that opened November 10th is under here.
Then came the lava.
There were 3 houses that went under. This one here, and one more that lava went all over.
We visit an Icelandic town 2 years after it was evacuated to see what's left. Next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. And the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, presenting the luminous watercolors of Winslow Homer, together for the first time in a generation, of light and air. Winslow Homer in watercolor is on view now. More at mfa.org. And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping you achieve your vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding you from design to completion, with showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. AtlanticDesignCTR.com.
Find that Friday feeling early at GBH Music's Jazz Night, featuring saxophonist Lehi Haruvi and her eclectic quartet, Thursday at 5:30 at the Boston Public Library. Get a free ticket at wgbh.org/events.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Few bakers have shaped the way we think about dessert quite like Dory Greenspan, a 5-time James Beard Award winner and author of 15 cookbooks. She spent decades bringing the joy of French and American home baking to kitchens around the world, from her classic Baking with Julia to the beloved Dory's Cookies. Now she's back with something a little simpler, but no less delicious. Her new book, Dory's Anytime Cakes, celebrates the cakes that fit into our everyday lives, the ones we bake not for birthdays or holidays, although you can, but the ones we make just because it's Tuesday or because there's coffee on the counter and company coming by. You can see her in person tonight at 6. She'll appear at Trillium Fort Point in the Seaport for a Q&A and signing. Dory Greenspan, welcome to The Culture Show. It's so great to have you here.
It's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry I didn't come with cake. I was on the train very early this morning.
That is quite all right. Well, I'm especially excited to talk to you about cake because I love cake. There are lots of pie people out there, but I especially love cake.
I'm happy to be here with you. I love pie too. There's a place for pie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is anytime? I gave the broadest outline, but anytime cakes, as you talk about in your introduction, and then throughout the book, this goes back to your life, really, in all facets of it.
This book surprised me so. I had no idea that when I started to work on it, it was like one cake begat? Yeah. One cake begat another cake. And they all brought back memories that I just didn't expect. So for me, an anytime cake is the kind of cake that sits in the kitchen, that you're walking by and you just take a little slice. Somebody told me that's called evening out the cake.
Oh.
Just evening it out. So you take a little slice. It's the kind of cake that's always there if somebody stops by. It's the kind of cake, I think about cakes like this. These cakes, they're simple, they're easy to make, they're not, 90% of them are not frosted. They're the kinds of cakes that you could move from the counter and put on the table and just talk over. They're almost like conversation cakes.
There's a simplicity. The simplicity is intentional here because, as you say, you're trying to do this with as few instruments as possible.
Yes.
No machines.
Well, there are machines, but yes, but I try. Yeah, I try. I think hands are the best tools in the kitchen, and I try to make as many of them instrument free.
Well, you have a few in particular. Your grandmother's cake, your mother's apple cake, if I can remember the title correctly. The childhood apple cake, your grandmother's honey cake. What is it to go back and to try to bring them into the present?
This was, as I said, this was so interesting to me because when I started the project, I was just looking to make simple cakes that people could make with satisfaction and serve with joy. I mean, I think that's why we bake. We bake for the pleasure of making something with our hands and sharing it. But then I realized how much cake meant to me as a child. So my mother did not bake. She didn't cook either. But my grandmother was a wonderful baker, and she brought food to us. And that honey cake, I'm not young. I had 15 books. I've never been able to capture that cake. And a friend said, I have a recipe you might like. And she sent me that honey cake, and I took a taste of it. And I was back waiting for my grandmother to come to bring the cake on Friday. Taste is extraordinary, the smell of something. And it brought back the memory of her bringing the honey cake. She brought one every week. She brought an apple cake, cookies, and a honey cake. She'd bring it. My mother would pounce on the cake, open the wax paper wrapping, and eat the almonds off the top of the cake. There was always like a row of almonds. She ate them. There were like 5 of them. She didn't like honey cake. She loved the almonds. I've never had, and as I'm thinking back, I don't think I ever had my grandmother's cake that it didn't have little holes in the top where my mother had taken the almonds. And tasting that cake just made me remember how lovely it was to have my grandmother bring us this cake, and to remember my mother with the almonds.
Yeah. Well, and now you bring it forward. You reference your granddaughter throughout the book, too. And so what I was so struck by in this book in particular is your relationship to food in terms of memory, but it's not just what you're hearkening back to. It's the memories you're very cognizant of making right now, too.
So I think, and this can happen with many things, but I think it so happens with food. We can build memories around food. We build traditions around food. There will be pie for Thanksgiving, but there will be, I'm going to make a pumpkin cake, and it'll be the first time. I'm also making a sweet potato cake. There'll be the first time that I'll be serving these cakes, and I'm hoping that when the holiday rolls around next year, my family and friends will say, "Oh, are you going to make that sweet potato cake again?" Because they will have the memory of our being together around that cake.
Are there cakes in the book that people are always requesting from you?
So yes. So there's a cake called the visiting cake, and that recipe was given to me 25 years ago or so, and I made it exactly the same all those years. It's a very plain cake. It was given to me by a woman who grew up in Sweden, and it was her mother's recipe. And her mother used to say that if she saw people coming up the road, she could start making this cake, and it would be Jared.
My mouth is falling open. That's why you paused.
This is a great recipe. She'd say by the time her friends had come into the house and settled themselves and they were ready for coffee, she would have this cake. And so it's a plain cake. It has a sprinkling of almonds on top of it. I added some raisins and an apple. And so this is my treasured favorite. Just tweaked a tiny little bit, as I've been doing through the years. That cake everybody wants. People want the yogurt cake, which is these are really simple. A bowl, a whisk, ingredients that you have at home. And so many of the cakes, and this is why I love baking and why I love simple cakes like this, so many of them are open to variation. So if you've got blueberries in the house, put them in the yogurt cake. You want a little cardamom, little ginger, a little do it. And I think that's, people always say baking, it's so scientific. It's so creative. It's so creative, and there's room for everyone to make it their own.
I'm speaking with Dory Greenspan about her new book, her 15th. This is number 15, right?
This is 15.
Dory's Anytime Cakes. You also have your BFF brownie cake, because everybody has to have a go-to chocolate. Is this your go-to chocolate?
That's it. And once again, a really simple, just mix it up. It's so chocolate.
That is so not a bad thing.
and it's got that lovely soft texture, so it develops a little crackly crust. A crust is like a little crackly, almost a film over the top, a little gloss. And then inside it's creamy. It's delicious. You could get used to a cake like this. This could be a cake that you would want to have around the house often.
Which is dangerous, too.
Oh, but you're sharing it.
Oh, is that
Yes.
what we're doing? We're evening out and sharing the cake?
So one of the things that I love about baking is the sharing. And people sometimes say to me, how do you bake so much? What do you do with it? Bake and release.
Yeah. It's hilarious. So how did this come to the fore for you? I know you've talked about this before, but we'll talk about it again here. That you were, as you said, your mother didn't bake, but you grew up and this became so much of your life, although certainly not the intention.
No, I went to graduate school in gerontology, and I thought that I was going to be an academic. And I always say my dissertation was the one deadline I didn't meet as a writer. I started baking. I got married when I was 19. I had never cooked. I burned my parents' kitchen down when I was 12. But after that, I never cooked again. No surprise.
Details.
And I didn't bake. But when we got married, I just had this idea of what it would be like if we could be the place that everybody wanted to come to. And so I wanted to cook and bake so that friends would always be around the table. And I discovered that I just loved it. I loved the process of baking. I loved how happy it made people to give them things that were baked. And when I realized I was never getting my dissertation done, my husband said, "Why don't you try and get a job as a baker?" Because I would bake every day and teach myself. I'm not trained. I taught myself to bake from recipes in cookbooks and from tugging on friends' elbows saying, "Oh, teach me how to do that."
Well, it helps when friends are like Julia Child.
Oh, there's that.
That helps. Well, did baking win out? You mentioned you were cooking and baking. How did baking win out?
Well, I'm a responsible adult. I cook and serve real food before I serve dessert, and I did write two cookbooks.
My colleague Jim Brody was raving about your shepherd's pie right before this show started.
That's a good recipe. Yeah. So Everyday Dory, and before that, Around My French Table. There's something about baking for me. There's the way the ingredients come together, touching the ingredients. I love the process. Really, as much as I was going to say as much as I love what I bake, but I really enjoy it from start to finish, and I like teaching people to take pleasure in the process, because sometimes it can be long, so you might as well enjoy it. But no, it is. There's a certain joy in making something, and even so, these cakes are super simple. They're loaf cakes or they're single layers. But I think they're beautiful. I think they're beautiful in their simplicity.
Even a carrot cake. So if I was pressed, I guess carrot cake would probably be my favorite. And you have a treasured is what it's called, a treasured favorite carrot cake recipe.
Yes. So again, a recipe that I've made for decades, that when I was working on the book, I thought, I could do something a little different with it. I bring it back. This was a recipe that it had cinnamon, it had raisins, it had nuts, and I've changed it. I've added pineapple at the request of. So, you're looking surprised. I was surprised. So many people think carrot cake has to have pineapple. It doesn't have to, but gosh, it's good. No, it turns out to be great. And the cake that I originally made was 3 layers, so probably the tallest thing I would make regularly, with cream cheese frosting. And I simplified it by making it a 1-layer cake with frosting, and it's awfully nice. And I got an email from a 4th grader who used to make the cake for her grandfather's birthday, and now she's in her math class. Her project is, can you make a cake for 50 people? And so she wrote to me to ask how to do the math. I took math for poets in college, but how to do the math so that she can make the carrot cake for 50. And so I feel like I have a head start for her because I've done it as a sheet cake.
That's amazing. Well, let's go to the opposite end of that. You talk in the book about creating towering wedding cakes, but with the joy and the rapture practically that you've just spoken about, these simpler cakes, is it the same kind of joy to do something as magnificent and dramatic as a wedding cake as it is?
I was nervous the whole time. There was that was one. The cake was beautiful. The bride and groom were happy. I was crazed the whole time. What if the layer falls? What if the flowers don't, if they tilt, if they don't stick? What if... No, there's so much more pleasure in a loaf cake. Really.
And the same with the Darth Vader cake that you made?
Oh, that was cute. That was for our son Joshua's 4th birthday. It was, may the fours be with you.
The fours. Clever, cute, adorable. So what should people be doing right now? Can people be doing something right now for Thanksgiving?
Yes.
You're clearly on it because you told us what you're going to be serving.
Yes. So the great thing about simple cakes, butter cakes in particular, is they freeze. So we could say goodbye and everyone could rush to their kitchens and start baking. I love this recipe. There's a recipe for a bundt cake. Bunts look beautiful because the pan is gorgeous. It's a pumpkin cake. It has a cocoa swirl through it, and that could be baked, popped into the freezer, taken out. You thaw in your wrapper, and you could put a drizzle of chocolate over it. It'd be so nice. Done. There's a holiday bundt. The cake that's on the cover of the book is the holiday bundt with cranberries and a cranberry juice glaze. Start this afternoon, Jared.
Well, they can start in 1 minute and 20 seconds because that's when we're off the air. So you have just given people the charge.
Go.
Absolutely do this.
Go forth and bake.
Thank you. Very well done. Dory Greenspan, thank you so much for being with us today. You're such a joy.
So nice. Thank you so much, Jared.
Well, mention you've already traded Instagram exchanges with Patrick. He's going to make your cakes famous in England and continuing on.
And I'm going to listen to his music.
You're both fabulous. Dory Greenspan is a James Beard Award-winning cookbook author. Her latest cookbook is Dory's Anytime Cakes. Tonight at 6, she'll appear at Trillium Fort Point in the Seaport for a Q&A and signing. To get tickets, go to trilliumbrewing.com and check out their... Thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Tune in tomorrow for Pulitzer Prize-winning composer Tanya Leon. She joins us ahead of her world premiere with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. The Culture Show crew is Max Chow-Gillette, Kate Dellis, and Chelsea Mers. Today's engineer is David Goodman. Our intern is Avery Morin. Thanks to the crew who produced our YouTube stream, Cullen Cockrell, Chris Hanks, Eddie Hickey, Sai Patel, and Maddie Geyer. If you ever miss us here on the radio, you can keep up with all things arts and culture by way of our podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
GBH's All Things Considered is coming up this afternoon at 4 with Marketplace at 6:30. But first, get a global view of the news with The World. Up next, here on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the law firm of Davis Malm. Immigration laws are not foreign to their attorneys. Learn more at davismalm.com. Davis Malm. Lean, agile, strategic. From old jewelry to forgotten folk art, is beauty in the eye of the beholder, or are these eye-popping treasures just plain ugly? Guess the top find on Antiques Roadshow tonight at 8 on GBH2.
Support GBH and unlock the best of NPR and PBS, all bundled in one. That means you can enjoy a treasure trove of your favorite public television programs in the PBS app with GBH Passport. On top of that, you get all NPR podcasts, early access, and bonus episodes from some of your favorite shows with NPR Plus. It's a super bundle for super public media fans. Find out more and unlock your member benefits today at gbh.org/superbundle.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at